Is it 1 o'clock? Ooh, look at us. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Agriculture, Conservation, Forestry. My name is Rachel Talbot Ross. I serve as the Senate Chair of this committee and will be presiding over the public hearings today, again, of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, Forestry. The purpose of these hearings is to invite testimony from members of the public regarding proposed legislation that is pending before this committee. The committee will hear testimony from persons present who wish to speak for, against, or neither for nor against the bills being heard today. With acknowledgement of the chair or chairs, the committee members may ask clarifying questions to any person testifying today. Other questions are not permitted. They will be held for work sessions on these bills. Whether or not you testify, you may submit written testimony to the committee. Please be mindful that testimony is public and is available to all once it is presented. Persons testifying at the public hearing today are advised that the hearing is being live streamed and may be seen and heard by persons watching online, and that a recording of this meeting will be archived. So, members of the committee, before I ask you to introduce yourselves, there are a couple important items to address regarding the format of the public hearings. First, if you are in the room here with us, please mute the audio and microphone on your electronic devices, including members sitting here at the Horseshoe. This will prevent audio disruptions both in the room and online. Second, for those joining us using Zoom, and there are several folks, if the name you use to sign into the Zoom is not the same as the name you used on the legislative website to register to testify, it may be difficult for us to identify you when it is your turn to testify. However, we will not close the hearing until we've given everyone on Zoom an opportunity to testify. If you're having any technical difficulties, you can talk with our committee clerk, Liv Maloney. And finally, all questions from committee members must be made through the chair. So we're going to start on my far right with Representative Cooper, and we'll do introductions of the committee.
Mark Cooper, Representative District 107, part of Wyndham.
Representative Dean Craig, District 69, Palmyra, Hatlam, St. Albans, Canaan, and Detroit.
Representative Steve Bunker, District 75, which is Farmington and Chesterfield.
Good afternoon. Caldwell Jackson, District 80, which consists of Hebron, Buckfield, Oxford, and Otisville.
Good afternoon, Senator Russ Black, representing District 5, which has 44 towns in 3 counties, Northern Kennebec County, Southern Franklin County, and most of Somerset County.
Good afternoon. I am Representative Tim Durrett. I represent District 4, which is Caribou, Washburn, and Wade.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim Dill. I represent House District 26, which is Old Town, Bradley, and the Penobscot Indian Nation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Allison Heffler, and I represent the towns of Aroustic, Georgetown, Pittsburgh, Woolwich, which is where I live, and West Bath.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sharon Frost. I represent District 58, which are the 6 lovely towns of Belgrade, Rome, Mount Vernon, Vienna, New Sharon, and Fayette.
And my name is Bill Pluker. I'm the House Chair of this committee. I represent House District 44. My goodness, which is Warren, Hope, and Union. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon and look forward to hearing from you.
And I hope you give a warm welcome to both our committee analyst, Karen Nadu, and our committee clerk, Liz Maloney. That does it for our introductions. We'll just briefly go over the scheduled agenda for us today. We are going to go in order of the calendar, the printed calendar. So we'll start off with LD 2096. We'll move to LD 2118, both public hearings, and then later we will move into work sessions on a couple of bills that we'll announce once we get there. So starting off with LD 2096, which is an act regarding scheduling of agriculture fairs and pulling events. I do see our sponsor is here, Representative Christine Miller. And just so that you know, after the sponsor presents the bill, we may hear from state agencies, but all testimonies after that will be according to a 3-minute clock. And that way we'll make sure that this hearing is run efficiently and that everyone has an equal opportunity to express their views. We're going to start with the sponsor. Thank you for being here. Take a copy. Thank you.
All set? Good afternoon. Thank you for welcoming me. Senator Talbot Ross, Representative Pluker, and distinguished members of the Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry Committee. I am Christina Mitchell, and I'm the representative for 110, that is Cumberland, Shibig Island, and Long Island. I am here today to introduce LD 2096, an act regarding scheduling of agricultural fairs and pulling events. The intent of this bill, 2096, is to address the concerns that arose with the fair dates last season between two fairs. With this bill, I want to prevent what happened from recurring and from spreading to other fairs, especially smaller ones where the damage would be more harmful. I have an amendment to offer as well that focuses on this intent and does not go deep into definition changes of an agricultural fair. The situation that calls for this bill. The final day of any given fair in Maine is universally understood to be the largest, and in fact, the largest revenue-producing day. If a fair, as occurred last season, unilaterally steps into another fair's approved, licensed final dates, it causes financial, organizational, and public confusion. Fairs already operate on a very thin margin. To lose revenue from ticket sales, vendors, and events is damaging to any fair in Maine. In our situation, it was confusing to the vendors and the public, as well as disruptive to the participants in the exhibits, the competitions, and the show events. The solution. This bill provides the Commissioner of the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry with tools to address any deviations from operating an agricultural fair outside of its approved licensed fair dates. Specifically, the bill provides that the Commissioner may suspend or revoke the license of a licensee that is in violation of the provisions in this bill. The bill also provides that a scheduled public or private polling event must take place during the dates of the fair's license and specifies that a polling event that is not conducted in accordance with this provision is not entitled to a stipend. There are fair officials present that can speak directly to the impact of the fair date overlap that occurred in my district last fair season. I understand that many fairs beyond this one in my district are very concerned about facing a similar situation. This bill provides the Commissioner of ACF the tools and authority needed to address and prevent such an occurrence from happening again. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I would defer specifics to the fair officials in my district who are with us today. And you should have the amendment I passed out as well.
Yeah, we have the amendment. Thank you for your presentation, Representative. Committee members, any questions? I see Chair Blucher.
Thank you. Representative Mitchell, did you want a chance to walk us through the amendment, or would you prefer to hand that to someone else?
I could do it.
Okay.
Just brief and then. So section 1, so the red parts are the ones that are changed from the original bill that you have in front of you. In section 1, I restored the original definition in current CAT statute, A, B, and C. That's the current statute for definition of an agricultural fair. I restored that. In my original bill, section D itemized 3 or more events and 3 or more different exhibits, what was in the definition. I've removed that. There seemed to be a lot of concern about that amongst all the fairs, and also not necessarily clarity on what all that meant, whether there were ands or ors there, and it was beyond the scope of the bill that I want to present. My focus is the fair dates. So perhaps another bill, another time for someone, but I'd rather not go there with this. And then F, which I consider to be very important to the bill, I have kept in there. Because in order to give the commissioner tools to act if such an occurrence occurs, it needs to be in the definition that fairs offer stipend eligible competitions and events for patrons to view. So I've left that in there. Deleted the part that said for a minimum of 3 consecutive licensed agricultural fair dates, because that was connected to the D section that I've eliminated. Section 2 crossed out the for purposes of this subsection. This was truly just a cleaning up of language in that section 2, the for purposes, as well as section 3. A prior bill, I believe Representative Plukers had already addressed the 24 hours prior for judging events, and I understood you would change it to 48, so I did the same likewise. Section 8 crossed out, again, clarity of language, but making it very clear again. It reads, any polling event conducted on a main fairgrounds must take place during the dates for which the applicable agricultural fair license is effective pursuant to section 84 to qualify for stipend fund payment. Another tool for the commissioner to act. And that's all the changes.
Thank you very much.
Any questions, committee members? Representative Cooper.
Yes, thank you. Representative Mitchell, so your current amendment as presented here today,
Mhm.
The members of the Fair Association and other fairs have not seen this amendment,
Correct.
nor the Department of Ag,
Correct.
so they have not had a chance to review it.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If you could, I will ask one. Can you tell me what would be the normal sequencing of these fairs? And the license you get has a specific date on when you operate the fair. You've brought this bill forward because there were some folks not operating within the license date. What is the regular sequencing?
I can give you the brief, and I'm sure ACF officials can explain it further. But in the spring, the fairs bring forward the dates they'd like to have their fair. They don't vary too much year to year, but they specify the dates they want, the week or the days. There are some fairs that are 2 or 3 days. They specify their days. The intent of that is that the fairs don't overlap. There are some that in fact do overlap currently. However, my understanding is they are a good 35, 50 miles apart, and the character of the fairs are very different. For example, I believe Common Ground Fair overlaps a bit with the Cumberland Fair, but they're quite far apart and very different vendors, participants, etc. So the dates are offered by the fairs, the commissioner approves the dates, and I believe they approved them for this time for the 4 years forward. So that's my understanding of it, but I'm sure they can explain that further.
No, I thank you for that. It helps a lot. I will ask my second question of seeing no other questions from the committee. So the recourse here, if you violate this, then it says that the license is suspended or revoked. Does that have a time stamp on it? Is it just revoked? How long would somebody be out of compliance according to this bill?
The bill doesn't specify the commissioner, it would be at the commissioner's decision to do that or not. But as far as time frame, that wasn't specified. I
Is
believe
the-
the intent is for that year, for that fair.
So that may be something we can ask about because just violating it means you'd be revoked for life according to this amendment.
Not my intent. I
Okay.
don't believe that will be their intent, but they speak for
Okay.
themselves.
I thank you, Representative.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the sponsor? We're seeing none. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you
with us
very
today.
much.
I'm gonna ask those who are, if the state agency would like to present their testimony. If you, for those who are testifying, if you state your name and any affiliation that you have, that would be great before you begin your testimony.
Okay.
You can begin whenever you're ready.
Okay. And again, we haven't seen the amendment, so I'm going to speak the testimony as we prepared prior to knowing there was an amendment. So Senator Talbot Ross, Representative Pluker, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Michelle Webb, and I'm the Director of Agricultural Resource Development, the ARD division within the Bureau of Agriculture, Food, and Rural Resources. I'm speaking on behalf of the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry, neither for nor against LD 2096. Title VII, Chapter 4 directs the DACF Commissioner in administering and overseeing agricultural fair licensing, performance standards, and the distribution of stipend fund, agricultural fair promotion, and agricultural fair support funds to qualified licensees. Current law contains provisions that are misaligned with other statutory sections and modern fair practices. LD 2096 addresses many of these issues through targeted amendments to definitions, clarification of timing requirements for licensed fair activities, and enhanced enforcement provisions. Modernizing the definition of agricultural fair, the proposed changes to the definition of agricultural fair are better aligned with current Chapter 12 department rules, which since 1983 have required licensees to offer competition for premiums or purses on 3 or more species of livestock throughout the licensed fair dates. Additionally, the bill expands the current requirement for horticultural products to include any stipend-eligible non-livestock competition, such as arts and crafts, home canned goods, baked goods, and mechanical arts, in meeting the definition of an agricultural fair. We recommend that the bill be amended to have the proposed definition of agricultural fair to read 3 or more stipend-eligible youth agriculture competitions or events. Further, we recommend the or, and you heard Representative Mitchell talk about the and and the or. I'm going to skip that part. It's in front of you. That's been pulled, an amendment. And LD 2096 also makes statutory changes by enacting a new subsection 7, Maine Revised Statute, Section 84, Paragraph 4, that the department recommends be reconsidered, particularly in the use of the word event. The word event is already defined in 7 MRSA 81 as a pulling competition or livestock exhibition. And its use in the bill may add confusion to an already complex law. We suggest substituting event with exhibition to remain consistent. Furthermore, the bill's subsection 4 proposes that food, entertainment, amusements, and other activities to be considered to determine if a licensee is hosting an operation that constitutes or is similar to a fair. The department does not support using these factors when determining if a licensee is operating outside of the boundaries of their fair license, as the definition of a fair in Section 81 does not include such elements. Clarifying timing requirements. So this is not related to the definitions. The bill proposes that licensees offer stipend-eligible competitions and events for public viewing for a minimum of 3 consecutive licensed agricultural fair days. This requirement clarifies that both non-parimutuel and parimutuel fairs conducting harness racing must offer at least 3 consecutive days to qualify for stipend fund eligibility. This aligns with current statute 7 Section 89, which requires parimutuel fairs to maintain agricultural exhibits for a minimum of 3 consecutive days during one annual harness racing meet. strengthening enforcement authority. The bill adds clarity to the commissioner's authority in licensing, suspending, and revoking agricultural fair licenses when violations occur, providing better tools for maintaining standards across all licensed fairs. Ensuring polling compliance. The proposed revisions to Section 86 add clarity for the fair licensees that offer polling events, requiring that such events be conducted in accordance with Section 97 to qualify for stipend fund payment. However, the department requests reconsideration of the bill's proposed revisions to 97 itself. As proposed, polling qualifiers and events such as the International Horse Bowl and International Ox Bowl may not be considered allowable to be hosted on a fairgrounds outside of the fair's agricultural license states. These local, regional, national, and/or international qualifiers and events provide an economic boost to an agricultural society operating a fairground. In 2025, at least 4 polling events were held at Maine Fairgrounds outside of their licensed agricultural fair dates. To avoid this issue in the future, the department recommends the following wording. To replace the current Section 97 language, any polling event conducted on a Maine fairgrounds must take place during the dates for which the applicable agricultural fair license is effective pursuant to Section 84 to qualify for stipend fund payment. I think that has been addressed in the amendment, listening to Representative Mitchell. In summary, DACF supports many of LD 2096's statutory revisions as they provide much-needed clarity to agricultural fair licensees and strengthen the fair framework for administering Maine's agricultural fair system. The department is suggesting some adjustments we believe are necessary to further improve the clarity and alignment amongst the statutory provisions pertaining to fairs as detailed in the appendix. We greatly appreciate the opportunity to collaborate with the committee on these important statutory improvements. Thank you for your time and consideration. Be happy to answer questions now or in the work session.
Thank you so very much, Director Webb. I am going to start with the question I asked the sponsor pertaining to the commissioner's authority in revoking a license when a violations occur. What is the timestamp on that? If you were going to suggest one.
Yeah, that definitely could be something that was handled in rule if it wasn't revised in another amendment. She was right. It's a 4-year licensing period. So that clarity would be good to have. The department hasn't discussed this, but whether that's a 1-year pause or whether it's for the duration of their 4-year license, we haven't had that conversation internally, but we could talk about that in the work session or know that it would be addressed by the commissioner in departmental rules.
If I may, I would suggest that you talk about it before the work session and prepare it at the work session because I'll probably ask the same question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Representative Cooper?
Thank you. Michelle, given the new amendments, will you be able to fully have things worked out and at the department with the amendments as presented here today for the work session?
Yes, we would be able to speak to the amendments for the work session, yes. And the question that you asked about if the license was revoked, what that would look like.
Representative Bunker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Forgive me for these freshman questions, but I'm brand new to the committee, so help me out on these. On page 2, you made reference to at least 4 polling events held outside of the licensed agricultural fair dates. What were the ramifications of that, if any?
Yeah, so when this bill was first proposed, it had language, I don't have it memorized verbatim, but that would be a prohibited activity to have a polling event outside of licensed agricultural fair days. I believe when I was listening to Representative Mitchell, I believe it's been amended to say that it would no longer be stipend eligible, so not prohibited. So my testimony that I provided was just making sure that it was clear that these events do happen outside of the licensed period. But events that happen outside the license period are not eligible for stipend fund. So adding that clarity, and then LD 2026 addresses the 24-hour, 48-hour piece of that.
Luker?
Thank you for being here, Director. Thank you for working on this issue for last month. You mentioned in your testimony that at least 4 polling events were held outside of Maine, were held at main fairgrounds outside licensed agricultural fair dates. Did all those happen at one particular fair or were there multiple fairs?
There were multiple fairs, the fairgrounds, there were events happening on the fairgrounds. So the fairgrounds or the agricultural society are operating as a business that is okay outside of the parameters of their license state, but we're really talking about what is allowed in their license state that is stipend eligible. So what I said was to speak to things can happen outside of those states, but they wouldn't be eligible for stipend fund or any of the other parameters in statute for those license states.
So no clear prohibition on pulling events
Correct.
happening outside, just you don't get stipends.
Correct.
Great.
Yep.
And then my last question was I know that there are fairs that operate on fewer than 3 days. And so I think in the language that you advocate, or I guess I'm asking, are you advocating for if we move it to 3 days, what would happen to those fairs?
Yeah, so they would so I think that's been pulled. So that was a definition piece and a 3-day piece. So I'm hearing the amendment is pulled, but if it would stay, then I'm aware of one fair that is less than 3 days. So they would either need to add, and we don't have anything in statute to say it has to be 24 hours worth of fair activities, but they would have to add another day, whether that's a few hours or whatever in their license period, would have to seek to have a date change for their fair for the upcoming 4 years to be 3 days. And the comment in here just represents that parimutuel fairs are already held to that standard.
Thank you very much.
I have just one other question, and that is, in the sponsor's testimony, she indicated that the motivation to bring this bill forward was because something happened within her district.
Correct.
That overlapped, and talked about the consequences of that. Can you tell me how often this may happen so that I have some historical context in which to judge this bill?
Yeah, so in the past, fairs were operating on a 3-year license cycle, but a handful or less of fairs would come to the department every year and request date changes. So there isn't a lot of guidance in department rules or statutes to say what we can consider. There's some language in rules saying we can look at economic harm, geographic distance, and those things, but there's not a lot of guidance for the commissioner, if you will. So those do come up. We have hearings, we have public hearings. We had a pretty robust public hearing in the spring for the upcoming 4-year license. So as a routine, it would be every 4 years, but if a fair wanted to change their dates, then it could happen more frequently. Fairs can request, I can't remember if it's 60 or 90 days before their first fair date, they can petition to the commissioner to ask for a date change.
Thank you very much. Representative Cooper.
Yes. Just as a follow-up to
Yeah.
Senator Ross's question, in the past, we have had other in the state, correct, fairs that have operated on non-licensed dates that were overlapping other fairs. How do you remember how many that's been?
Other fairs that are overlapping, I know that there's one that it is also true that there are many that many may be too strong, but there are several that overlap that are very geographically or fair type different. But last year, 2025 was a year that definitely rose to attention where 2 fairs close together. One was operating outside of their licensed fair date, while another one was operating during their license date.
Dear. I'm remembering about 5 years ago, Northern Maine switched to the time frame of Holton Fair and operated a few days as a fair and a few days as a carnival festival. And a couple years ago, Union Fair and Ossipee had overlaps, and Union ran his Blueberry Festival, I think, for a couple of days to avoid the actual license date overlaps, but I
Yeah.
didn't know if there were more than that.
So I've been with the department 3 years. I am aware of background context, but not speaking to directly how that came up. But there are fairs that have pivoted to calling it something like a carnival or a festival. and operating outside of the licensed date. And we'll remind everyone listening that if they're operating outside of their licensed states, outside of the context of this bill, but current statute, it means that they don't qualify for stipend for those activities if they're operating outside of their licensed states. So they don't qualify for funding for the things that happen during that off period.
Any other questions, committee members for Director Webb? Not seeing any. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you for your testimony. We are now going to move to take testimony for those who are speaking in favor of the bill. If you are in the room and have prepared testimony, please provide 20 copies to our clerk, Liv Maloney. Testimony submitted electronically through the legislator's testimony portal is available by clicking on the committee materials linked to the committee's webpage. When you are called upon, I will ask you to state your name, your place of residence, and the organization you represent, if any. When you introduce yourself, please be sure to indicate how you would like members to refer to you and address you, including, if you wish, your title and pronouns. Those who are testifying here in favor of LD 2096. Thank you. We're going to begin the clock and welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Senator Talbot Ross, Representative Pluker, and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Elizabeth Tarantino. I am the Secretary of the Cumberland Farmers Club, and we operate the Cumberland County Fair in Cumberland, Maine. I am here today representing the Cumberland Farmers Club in favor of LD 2096 with the amendments offered by Representative Mitchell. We believe that this bill will provide the Maine Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry with the tools necessary to administer consequences for fairs that operate outside of the agricultural fair definitions and fair dates set by the Commissioner as deemed necessary. Cumberland Fair experienced negative impacts in 2025 by the opening of another fair outside of licensed agricultural fair dates. And we believe that this bill will not only help to protect our fair, but would protect any of the 25 licensed agricultural fairs in the state of Maine from experiencing the same type of impacts. Impacts that could cripple or potentially destroy some of the smaller fairs. We offer our full support for this bill moving forward as amended. I appreciate your time and consideration. I would certainly make myself available for any workshops in the future, and I'm certainly available for any questions now.
Thank you, Ms. Tarantino. You did a great job. Minutes to spare. We've got, any questions at all from Ms. Tarantino? We're not seeing any. Thank you, though, for being here today, and thank you for offering to be here for our work session.
Thank you.
We'll take you up on that. Thank you. Anyone else in the room who wants to speak in favor of this bill? Thank you. We are going to begin the 3-minute clock whenever you're ready.
All right. Good afternoon, Senator Talbot Ross, Representative Polker, and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Ted Googans. I'm the president of the Cumberland Fair and president of the Cumberland Farmers Club. Thank you for hearing my testimony today in regard to LD 2096 with the amendments offered by Representative Mitchell. I'm here to offer my full support for this bill as presented. On behalf of the Cumberland Farmers Club, I believe that this bill will create a fair process for overseeing fair dates changes for all fairs, large and small. Cumberland Fair has experienced the negative effects of fair date overlaps on licensed fair openings, and we feel that bill will create a fair process for the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry to approve or deny any proposed dates changes in the future, and more importantly, provide the department with the tools to enforce the rules of agriculture fairs if necessary. I appreciate this opportunity to testify in favor of this bill, and I am willing to participate in workshop relating to this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Googans. Thank you for being here and thank you for the work that you do. Any questions, committee members, for Mr. Googans? We're not seeing any. Thank you again
Thank you.
for your offer to be here for the work session.
Thank you.
Anyone else that's in the room that would like to testify in favor of LD 2096? We're taking testimony in favor. There are no one online in favor of 2096? No. We will now move to those speaking in opposition of this bill, in opposition of LD 2096. Here. Whenever you're ready, we'll begin the 3-minute clock.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Senator Talbot Ross, Representative Pluker, and the distinguished members of the Agricultural Conservation and Forestry Committee. My name is Barry W. Norris, and I'm the Executive Director of the Maine Association of Agricultural Fairs, which represents the 25 licensed fairs in the state of Maine. I stand here before you today representing our agricultural fairs in opposition to LD 2096. On Saturday, January 24th, 2026, an annual meeting at the MAAF conference, 24 of our fairs representatives were in attendance with the 25th out due to sickness and voted unanimously not to support this bill as written. However, we just received an amendment late yesterday afternoon, and we keep an open mind and find that the amendment language will hopefully satisfy our objections. But I want to read what was asked of me. The bill title, An Act Regarding Scheduling of an Agricultural Fair and Pulling, does not seem to represent the body of the existing bill. Only when one reads the summary on page 2, you see in the first sentence changes the definition of agricultural fairs and prohibits certain things. If one did not read the bill in its entirety, one would not have realized the impact the bill would have on our fair community. At the meeting, all the fair representatives were vehemently opposed to the language specifically on page 1 of the bill, sections 1, MSRA, subsection 1, subsection 1, lines 11 through 26, inclusive, and on page 24 of the bill, 5, exception, as LD 2026 was amended and allowed for 48 hours prior to the exception, which I believe the amendment addresses, and we thank you for that. They voted that they will neither vote for nor against the remainder of the bill. We have here today, either live or on the web, representatives of the fairs to show their opposition and support of the amendment, should we talk about it, to LD 2096. I believe that an amendment which is offered will be forthcoming, and we look forward to working with the committee if asked at the work session, and I appreciate your time and your efforts today. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for being here, Director Norris. Any questions for the director? Yes, Representative Frost.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, you mentioned that there were people here who want to testify. Did you say they were going to testify on the amendment or no?
We just received the amendment. They're here to testify in opposition to the bill as presented. So there are people here who are against the bill. They had not seen the amendment until late. So I'm speaking to the amendment. I'm going to let them speak for themselves on on the way they want to testify. But the amendment was brought forth late yesterday afternoon, and I was very fortunate to see it, but I was not able to get to our fair representation to react to it.
So Director Norris, just for a bit of clarity.
Yes, ma'am.
You were just made aware of the amendment.
Yes, ma'am.
You have not had enough time to consult with the other fair presidents to know what position you would take on the amendment, or you do have a position on the amendment?
I have not talked to them, so I can't take a position for them on the amendment. My thought process is if once I polled them, I believe that they would be in favor of the amendment as presented.
Thank you, Director Norris. Any other questions for the director? Again, we thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Representative
Nope.
Jewett? No?
Thank you.
Those in the room who are in opposition to the bill?
Are you ready?
We are.
Thank you very much, Senator Ross, Talbot Ross, and Representative Pluker. I am David Hastings from Freiburg. I am the president of the West Oxford Agricultural Society, which operates the Freiburg Fair. And I can tell you, we are the fair that this bill is aimed at. This bill is proposed solely by Cumberland Fair to make dramatic changes in the laws affecting fair dates and the fair operations. And in fact, it will establish the requirement that fairs obtain a license just to operate, which has never been the law in Maine. Maine has never required fairs to have a license to operate. It's something of a misnomer. Yes, we have licensed fair dates, but the only consequence of having a licensed fair date is the right to have premiums reimbursed partially under the Fair Stipend Fund. We were informed some 3 or 4 years ago by a representative of the department. They pointed out to us that, yes, you can operate an unlicensed day. You're just not, whatever premiums you pay that day will not be qualified for the fund. So this bill is put together. Yes, there were rules about, there are about 13 or 14 overlapping fair dates. It's not an unusual situation. Freiburg Fair is located 50 miles and about an hour and 10 minutes from Cumberland. For instance, Farmington Fair and the Common Garden Fair operate on the same day, 52 miles and an hour and 10 minutes apart. It's not unusual. We're not particularly proximate and geographically to Cumberland. So how have we come about this? This bill is put together solely by one fair without any input for all the stakeholders that you would normally expect to be involved putting together legislation regarding the awarding of fair dates. The association wasn't involved. The department wasn't involved. None of the other fairs were involved. This is not ready for prime time, these kind of changes. And so we did operate on Saturday. We did so because the current rules in awarding dates require facts, revenues, how much you took in, effects. We had no facts. They had no facts. They were just opposed to us doing it. We did it. Now we have facts. By the way, there was a hearing on Thursday where we are asking to have that opening Saturday awarded as a license, in our fair license. But I think this is way premature. Normally, when you're gonna set up a licensing process, you come up with rules that are understandable, so you would understand what you have to do to get a license. Right now, the rules only apply to awarding stipend available dates. And quite honestly, if you don't do it, you'll never come up with the facts that would satisfy the rules. The rules require facts. The fact that Cumberland just doesn't want us to do it is not enough. And by the way, we understand, well, we had a very successful opening Saturday, 50 miles away. Cumberland also had a very successful Saturday at their fair.
Thank
Which,
you,
by
Mr.
the way,
Hasting.
here we are over in rural Western Maine. They sit in the middle of very populous Cumberland County. Both fairs are able to coexist. And
Mr. Hasting, I'm going to ask you if you can wrap up your testimony.
I will try to, well, as the target of this bill, I hope, I thank you for a little bit of grace on this, but because it's aimed at us. And we do not want to harm Cumberland. We do believe the facts will show that we have not harmed Cumberland. We'll open, the statute doesn't, the rules don't even say what geographic proximity is.
Thanks,
Is it
Mr.
10
Hasting.
miles? Is it 50 miles? I think at any rate, this is a major change in law that should not be done without input and recommendations from the stakeholders, all the stakeholders, not just Cumberland Fair. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much for your testimony, for being here today. Committee members, questions for Mr. Hastings? Mr. Hastings, have you been able to look at the amendment?
Well, that amendment, I am opposed to any part of this bill that would shut down any of our smaller fairs. From what I've heard, they're still insisting that the fair has to be 3 days long. I believe that will eliminate Washington County Fair from participation in the stipend fund. A very small fair, but I'm sure they rely heavily on the funds they do receive from it. That amendment, if the 3-day requirement remains, will shut down that small fair. We think that's a mistake.
Appreciate your being here and your answer. Any questions for Mr. Hastings? It may be helpful to have you here at the work session if you'd like to.
Can I do that by Zoom?
Of course.
Madam Chair?
Yes, you can.
Because I'm going to be, I don't know when the works, do you have a date for that yet?
I do not one that I can publicly.
Okay, so if it's next week, I'll have to participate by Zoom.
Yeah, we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hastings.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room that'd like to testify against LD 2096, please come to the podium.
I don't have a pen. You want me to use the highlighter?
Here.
It's on the floor. It's right on the floor.
Oh.
Oh, I dropped it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to begin the 3-minute clock whenever you're ready. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Senator Talbot Ross, Representative Pluker, and the distinguished members of the Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry Committee. My name is Hope Ricker. I am a past president of the Maine Association of Agricultural Fairs, and I'm here today representing the Pittston Fair, one of Maine's smaller agricultural fairs. My testimony was written before the amendment, and I'm just going to continue with that, okay, because I know some of these have been taken out. I'm here to testify in opposition, specifically Section 1's lines 11 through 26 and Section 5. Changing the definition of an agricultural fair is not necessary. Fairs have been operating very successfully in the state of Maine under the present definition for many, many years, and my fair for 70 years. Changing the definition to the suggested wording in this bill will have a profound impact on many fairs in the state, but especially the small fairs. The agricultural community has changed drastically with many fewer farms in the Pittston area. Competitions in many species of livestock and poultry are just not feasible with the exhibitors that we have come to our fair now. We offer educational opportunities and demonstrations for fairgoers to learn about livestock, poultry, and other agricultural-related topics. Requiring 3 or more youth agriculture events would also offer a challenge for my fair. Offering competitions for a minimum of the 3 days, which I understand was pulled with the amendment, would have put Washington County right out of business. Going to Pittston Fair is a tradition in my community. This is a place where social interaction is face-to-face and not on a screen. Nonprofits have an opportunity to reach members of the community as well as some of our local businesses. Friends and family gather with each other and take in all we have to offer: agricultural education, few competitions, affordable, family-friendly local entertainment, and a great sense of community. We do not need to have that be redefined. Each fair in Maine is unique, which makes them so special. The hundreds of volunteers put their hearts and souls into making their fairs a special place to visit. We remain the premier agricultural education entity in the state of Maine, and we do not need that to be redefined. I will make myself available at the work session if you have any other questions. Thank you for your time and your continued support of our 25 Maine agricultural fairs.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ricker, for being with us today. We appreciate your time and your testimony. I'm going to ask committee members if they have any questions. You're not seeing any, and you haven't weighed in on the amendment yet. You're not weighing in on
No,
the
I didn't,
amendment
no.
yet.
I did listen, I did see some of it was, but there's still a couple of lines in there that were not removed
Okay.
that I testified against. Thank you.
For your testimony. Anyone else in the room? Yes, please make your way to the podium. Quick question before you begin. Do you have printed testimony? Do you have?
No, I do.
copies
I
of
do
your
not.
testimony?
I do
Okay,
not.
you may begin.
Good afternoon, esteemed members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. My name is Dave Andrews. I'm the General Superintendent at Forever Fair. As we know, Maine has many fairs of all sizes. We have common goals to promote agriculture and create a common and community events in our state. As our industry changes, we as fairs must change, and we'll be left behind. At Freiburg, we added Saturday. After consulting a representative of the Department of Agriculture, that day being focused on this bill, that this bill is what's the focus. We did this because many of our vendors have asked us to add Saturday for years. Those vendors included 40+ nonprofit civic organizations who make most of their revenue from the fair. The vendors also asked, and the carnival. This extra day also gave us some rain insurance, as our large overhead does not change much during rain events, but our revenue does suffer. Some in the fair industry still believe that there are 2 segments of the fairs, carnivals and the fairs, which is true to some extent, but in reality, the carnivals and the fairs should be considered as partners, because without a carnival and all what they bring, food, vendors, rides, shopping, most fairs would be hard-pressed to cover the overhead of running their fairs. Before 2017, in the US, we had more than 400 carnival operators. We lost more than half of those. In the United States now, we have about 170 carnival operators. This would indicate to me that the remaining carnivals would be would at some point start to pick and choose the fairs that offer the best business option for them. The fairs that operate Sunday to Saturday may want to consider filling those weekend dates, as the Sunday to Saturday dates are becoming less desirable dates for carnivals because of the loss of a whole weekend. Fairs at some point may be asking to renegotiate their carnival dates because of that. Main fairs are already at a disadvantage because of our geographic location. Well, at the national conference, I talked with several carnivals out there and told them where I was from, the dates we run, and asked them if they would be interested in coming to Maine. But because of our location and our dates that we run, they weren't interested. Maine needs more flexibility to adjust or add dates or reduce dates as needed, as long as they fulfill their missions. I'm asking you to kill the bill as it is. It will have negative impacts on fairs and create barriers that will hinder and prosper the ability to change in the industry as the industry changes.
Mr. Andrews, if you could wrap up your testimony.
Thank you. Thank you.
I apologize because I got your name,
Dave Andrews.
but I didn't get your affiliation. Is it with Freiburg Fair?
Freiburg Fair. I'm the general superintendent.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Andrews? Yes, Representative Frost.
Yeah, I thought you made some interesting points and I would love to see a written testimony. Do you think you could get that to us?
Yeah,
Great,
I
thanks.
would.
You can submit that online if you'd like.
Yep.
Or
All right.
give it to the committee clerk. Any other questions for Mr. Andrews? Mr. Andrews, have you seen the amendment?
Excuse me?
Have you seen the amendment?
Not the updated.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Thank you.
opposed to it.
Opposed to the
Yeah, the
amendment?
whole bill. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Anyone else in the room who'd like to testify in opposition? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Senator Talbot Ross, Representative Pluker, and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Jeff Chadbourne. I am here today representing the Harmony Free Fair, where I have been president for the past 23 years. I'm here today to testify in opposition to LD 2096, specifically Section 1, lines 11 through 26, and Section 5. Changing the definition of an agricultural fair will hurt small fairs in Maine. The town of Harmony used to have 2 or 3 working dairy farms on every road. There are now none. What we do have are a lot of small hobby farms who come to the Harmony Fair for educational opportunities and demonstrations. While we do have some agricultural competitions, we do not have the resources or local farms to comply with LD 2096 as written. I sat in the MAAF booth 2 weeks ago at the Agricultural Trade Convention, passing out information about Maine fair dates. I asked a lot of people what their favorite fair was. Some said a few bigger fairs by name, but about a third said, I like the small fairs. Please don't take the small fairs away from them by passing LD 2096 as written. We do not need to have our fairs redefined. No one knows our fairs better than the local community volunteers that work at our fairs. Respectfully submitted, Jeff Chadbourne.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chadbourne, for being here and for the work that you do. Any questions for Mr. Chadbourne? We're not seeing any. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
No worries. I've got your treat. And no, it's not chocolate, Representative Garrett. Give me, yes, we did.
We'll just take a moment to get your testimony. Thank you. The Honorable.
You gotta share.
We have the Honorable Marianne Kinney with us today. We
Yes.
appreciate the treats.
You're welcome.
It helps.
Just to be in full disclosure, I am a former member of this committee, and it's just kind of a tradition to do this. This is in no way a bribe or anything like that.
No, but
I would have been in big trouble though if I hadn't brought something. Representative Dill, Senator Black, they would have been the big first two to give me a hard time. Okay, here we go. Good afternoon, Senator Talbot Ross, Representative Pluker, and members of the ACF committee. I am Marianne Kinney of Knox, and yes, cows still outnumber people where I live. And I am submitting testimony in opposition of LD 2096, an act regarding scheduling of agricultural fairs and pulling events. I did not have a chance to see the amendment yet, so I am testifying on the original bill, but hearing the amendment, I'm still not in favor. I am very concerned with the changes being made to the definition of an agricultural fair in Maine. By narrowing the scope of competitions, this could adversely affect Maine's smaller agricultural fairs. And this one caught my attention first through the Washington County Fair. I have it as a 3-day fair. I guess it's a 2-day fair. So that's my apologies for that. And I've been told that it's struggling on its own, and this added set of rules could end that fair's distinction as an agricultural fair. I appreciate that the beginning of the definition was left alone. Agricultural fair or fair means an exhibition that is designed to promote education and encourage improvement in agriculture. When the Bangor Fair stopped promoting agriculture, my own family stopped attending as a visitor. We go to fairs for the agricultural components. Education in our state regarding agriculture is lacking. We open our own farm to visitors for the purpose of education, and it amazes me how little the general public knows about agriculture. And our agricultural fairs, no matter their size, help to bring this education to the public. I'm not sure what promoted the language, although I have figured it out. And I hope my thoughts are wrong, which unfortunately they're not. But I have been speaking with some members of this committee over the weekend, and I was told that it has to do with the overlapping of dates. So I want to mention several that really are not that far away when it comes to who attends the fairs. Topsom and Skowhegan fairs are 67 miles apart, about an hour and 20-minute drive. Windsor Fair and Blue Hill Fair about 75 miles apart, about an hour and a half. Clinton Lyons and Litchfield fairs, the closest that I figured out, about 47 miles apart, less than an hour, about 50-minute drive. Farmington and Common Ground fairs are 53 miles apart, about an hour and 15 minutes. Common Ground and Cumberland fairs, 90 miles apart, about an hour and 40 minutes. And Cumberland and Freiburg fairs are 49 miles apart, not the closest two, about an hour and 20-minute drive. Most of the fairs that overlap do so by only a day or two, but I want to draw your attention to a fair that is arguably the oldest, or darn close, the oldest running fair in the state of Maine, the Blue Hill Fair. All of its days overlap with the Windsor Fair, and the two fairs have coexisted for a long time without issue. They draw their agricultural exhibits from similar geographic areas, and I've exhibited in the past at both, not at the same time. And I've stuck with the Blue Hill Fair for the past 20 years because they want me there. There's more to that, but that's irrelevant to this legislation. During 2020, all agricultural fairs were canceled, some at the very last minute, causing high expenses for the individual fair associations who now had no income for the year. And as a sitting representative at the time, I directly questioned the DACF commissioner about how the department could help these organizations, and was told, well, they don't have any expenses if they're not running the fair, so they should be fine. I've spoken to organizers of the Blue Hill Fair over the years about their expenses outside of their fair dates, their biggest being electricity costs. I realize I'm running over, but this is important. Their electric usage during the fair spikes and sets their year-round rate at the highest rate for the rest of the year based on the 5 days that they're operating. You could argue it's about 10 days with setup and takedown. But during 2020, I was also told that the Freiburg Fair lost about $2 million in revenues and struggled to keep up with their maintenance throughout 2020. throughout that year. In 2021, at the Freiburg Fair, the commissioner stopped by my booth to let me know that the department was able to secure funding for to help struggling farmers during the pandemic, particularly dairy farmers. And I repeated my question to her about what help the agricultural fairs would receive and was told there was nothing for them. I'm not one for fixing squabbles with legislation, especially studies, but if there is a real issue with overlapping dates of agricultural fairs, then there's clearly needs to be much more evidence brought before this committee. And just the fact that this hearing today has so much opposition, I hope that makes you aware that there is more that needs to be addressed and that this legislation is not ready for prime time. I cracked up that someone else said that too. And this really should result in an ought not to pass at this time. And I thank you for your consideration and would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for being here with us today. And I will ask any committee members if they have any questions. We very much appreciate you taking the time and recognize your years of service that we also appreciate to the people of the state of Maine. So thank you for bringing
Farmers
all
are
of
my
that
passion, always have been,
Yes.
always will be.
And we love the sweets.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the committee room that wishes to testify against LD 2096? I see the Honorable Senator Marianne Moore, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. No, that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all. And I just got a copy of the amendment. So this is the first I've even seen of it. So the testimony I am providing is actually based on the original bill that we were looking at. So
thank you, Senator.
Senator Talbot Ross and Representative Pluker, distinguished members of the ACF committee. It's good to see you all. I don't normally testify in front of you guys, so this is awesome. I am Marianne Moore, and I represent Senate District 6, which includes all of Washington County and 16 communities in eastern Hancock County. I'm testifying kind of as a joint testimony with Representative Will Toole, who has House District number 10. We kind of did a joint tag, you're it type situation, not sure who was going to be available to testify today, so you've got me, so that's why I'm here. So
thank you for being here.
So we're writing today to express our strong opposition to LD 2096, an act regarding scheduling of agricultural fairs and pulling events. As the senator and representative for one of Maine's smallest, most rural, and newest agricultural fairs, the Washington County Fair, which takes place in the heart of Pembroke, Maine. Maine's small agricultural fairs are truly volunteer, hand-to-mouth operations that embody family-friendly activities, a strong community feel, and the rural character of our state. The Washington County Fair has quickly become a late summer destination for local people who want to enjoy a day out with friends, their children, and the community. It is a fair showcasing neighbors helping neighbors, the communities of our entire region, and the farming tradition many Downeasters grew up with. It is a place for live music, harness racing, animal demonstrations, and to showcase the best in local foods, crafts, and resources. While all of this takes place over 2 days in late August, wedged between the more well-advertised Wild Blueberry Festival in Machias and larger fairs over the Labor Day weekend, the work that goes into the Washington County Fair takes untold months to plan, organize, and pull together. Volunteers descend on the Pembroke Fairgrounds weeks in advance to lay the groundwork for the next year's fair and to spend untold hours cleaning up in its wake. Every year, the stress and strain on this volunteer crew increases as volunteers burn out, age out, and struggle to come up with new and innovative things to attract fairgoers. Our fair does not want or need an edict out of Augusta that we must add a third day to be considered a bona fide state fair. We also cannot afford to lose valuable state funding simply because it doesn't have the capacity to add a third day.
In closing, it's not just the Washington County Fair vendors and patrons who benefit from these 2 days of activity in central rural Washington County. It is the rural economy and businesses like Coastal Subs in Pembroke, who sees increased foot traffic on fair days, our lodgings that welcome visitors to the area for the fair. It is Washington County as a whole who benefits as residents from near and far realize there are fun, family-friendly things they can do without having to travel to Ellsworth, Bangor, or to Portland. Please listen to the concerns of our local fair association and their brothers and sisters around the state who support allowing exhibition judging up to 24 hours prior to the assigned fair dates. However, they are not in support of requiring a minimum of 3 consecutive fair days. So I did see that a lot of those have already been addressed in the amendment. I'm, not knowing how my folks feel, but I feel that we are meeting some of the concerns they had regarding this bill. So I was asking that you vote out not to pass and consider amending the bill to address their concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Moore. Any questions for the senator? Thank you for your testimony
Sure.
and acknowledging
Yeah.
that there have been some corrections made through the new amendment.
And I do have a copy of the amendment, so I'm going to share that this evening with the
Excellent.
folks. So
Excellent.
thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
guys. Sure.
Come back anytime.
Yeah. Off to HHS.
Ooh. Representative, you can begin at
Yeah.
any time. Thank you
All
for
right.
being here.
Good afternoon, Senator Talbot Ross, Representative Blucher, and the rest of the members of the ACF committee. My name is Nathan Wadsworth, and I represent House District 82, Southern Oxford County. And I wish today to rise in opposition to this legislation. I'm a lifetime farmer who's shown cattle at nearly every major fair in Maine, from Cumberland to Freiburg to Oxford to Windsor to Acton. And I also show every year at my home fair of Ospey Valley. And the message from the ground here is clear. This bill could potentially devastate our fairs. The bill represents a significant and unwarranted expansion of government control over our local fairs by granting the department the power to penalize a fairground for hosting largely similar activities within a week of their assigned dates. The state would be micromanaging our calendars. Ultimately, the government should not be in the business of dictating the similarity of local events or punishing organizations for maximizing the use of their own grounds. Also, why is this bill an emergency bill? This is a second session reserved for true emergencies. And I think we'd all agree that changing the definition of a polling event or a fair date is not immediately necessary for the preservation of public peace, health, or safety. There's no crisis here that justifies bypassing the standard legislative process. And finally, narrowing the definition of agricultural fair, we risk leaving cherished community institutions behind. I had the Waterford World's Fair. I'm unsure whether that would get sucked in like the Washington County Fair or not, but we should be expanding support for local agriculture, not creating rigid definitions that pick winners and losers. Excluding our smaller fairs would really be a negative impact on their local communities. And I want you to ask yourselves, why is this bill not being brought forward by the Maine Association of Agricultural Affairs or the department themselves? I urge you to protect our rural fairs. Please vote on not to pass. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today, Representative Wadsworth. Any questions for the good representative? Yes, Representative Frost.
Hi, thanks for
Hi.
being here.
Sure.
Did you have a chance to look at the amendment?
I have not seen the amendment
At all?
I had lunch with Representative Cooper. He made me aware of the amendment, but I have not seen that.
Okay, so no comments on it.
I really can't. Nope.
Thank you again,
Thank you
Representative.
kindly.
We are still taking testimony from anyone in the room who is in opposition to this bill. We're seeing none. We will go to those who are online. And I'll ask our clerk to bring forth April Boucher or Boucher. If she's still with us.
Yes, I'm here. I was just accepting the invite. Thank you.
We'll wait till we can see you on the screen. And we can see you on the screen. You can begin your testimony. We have a 3-minute clock. Is it something that we've got? We've got it. Thank you.
Excellent. Good afternoon, Senator Talbot Ross, Representative Pluker, and the members of the Distinguished Committee. My name is April Boucher, and I'm the director of the Common Ground Country Fair, which is hosted by the Maine Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association, MOFGA. MOFGA appreciates the opportunity to testify in opposition of LD 2096, an act regarding scheduling of agricultural fairs and pulling, specifically lines 11 through 26. The agricultural fairs of Maine have been successfully supporting and serving their local and wider communities for many years, and in some cases for over 200 years. Each fair is unique and a true celebration of their area's agriculture and community. As a result, we need to meet fairs where they are and lift them up with support. The revised agricultural fair definition proposed would put undue hardship and may even cause the closure of some of our small and medium-sized fairs. The proposed revised definition also doesn't emphasize education, which is an integral part of our agricultural fairs. Last year, 64,420 fairgoers attended the Common Ground Country Fair to avail themselves of over 600 educational opportunities and almost 50 family-friendly activities. People keep coming back because we are investing in them, their families, and our communities. Our fairs also largely operate because of the skills and hard work of volunteers. For many volunteers, it is hard to take time off from work, and many use their vacation times to help make our fairs happen. It is also a challenge for farmers to be away from their farms for extended periods of time to exhibit and compete. We should not be canceling a fair because their volunteers or exhibitors can only be away from their lives for a day or two. We need to meet our fairs, volunteers, farmers, and exhibitors where they are and lift them up with support. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Boucher? We're not seeing any. Thank you for your patience today, and we welcome your testimony. We will now turn to David Hastings has already testified, I believe. Floyd Thayer, online. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. So Mr. Thayer, you should be able to hear. Okay. He did accept the invitation. Yeah. Mr. Thayer, can you hear me? Mr. Thayer? Hello? Okay, why don't, hopefully we will not lose him if we bring Kathy Jurgen over, if she is still with us. She is? Okay. Why don't we hear from Ms. Jurgen, and then we'll see if Mr. Thayer is still with us. Ms. Jurgen, can you hear me? She declined. You said also declined. Did Mr. Thayer ultimately decline? I'm sorry, I can only hear, just one moment. Okay, so both Mr. Thayer and Ms. Jurgen have declined, and I do see that we have their testimony in opposition to this bill. So we will move along to anyone in the room who is neither for nor against. Anyone neither for nor against LD 2096. wishing to speak? There's no one else online. So committee members, I think we can close out this public hearing on LD 2096. And once again, thank the sponsor, Representative Mitchell, for bringing this bill forward and spending some time with us today in ACF.
I was hoping are we allowed to ask the analyst for some information?
Please do, Representative Frost.
Thank you. Madam Nader. I would like, where did I write it down? There's a slew of testimony here. Oh, I wrote it down somewhere. I think I can come up with it. Somebody from the Freiburg Fair mentioned that that they heard that Cumberland didn't lose out a lot on the Saturday that they overlapped. Is it possible to track the earnings that they made in maybe, let's say, 22, 23, 24 versus 2025? Is that possible? On that day, on that Saturday, they're on Cumberland's final day of the fair.
And Representative Frost, for that request, are you trying to juxtapose it to the other fair, the Freiburg Fair?
Well,
are you looking at it in
financially?
context?
Yeah, financially, the comment was made that in the testimony from Cumberland, they said that it's a big financial loss to have the 2 days overlap.
I'm
But
just
losing
clarifying
their
the data
so-
request. Will it also apply to Freiburg? To get the same revenue information?
No, I don't think so. I just really care about that last day of Cumberland's fair before they overlapped, the time before versus the day they overlapped.
We will try to get that information for you for the work session. Anyone else have a request for materials? Representative Frost, are you all set?
Yes.
Okay, that public hearing is closed. We thank everyone who came and traveled to be with us today. We thank you for your time. Safe journeys home. Committee members, we are going to move directly to our next public hearing, which is LD 2118. As we clear the room, this is an act to eliminate the Natural Areas Program and reassign certain responsibilities under the program to the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, and to amend the law governing administration of the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, Bureau of Resource Management. It will be presented by our committee member, Representative Jim Dill. I'm going to ask those in the committee room if they'll make their way out quietly so that we can proceed with our next public hearing. Committee members, we are going to begin our public hearing. The sponsor, Representative Dill, is here. And any testimony? Oh, yeah. Thank you, Representative Dill, for your patience. Please proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Talbot Ross, Representative Kluger, and very distinguished members of the ACF committee. I'm Jim Dill. I represent House District 26, and I'm here to present a department bill submitted by IF&W and referenced here to ACF. It's one that we have seen before, and it basically, the bill repeals the laws governing the Natural Areas Program administered by ACF and reassigns certain responsibilities under the program to the Department of IF&W. The bill updates relevant definitions to the main revised statutes to reflect these changes. The bill also reestablishes the Natural Areas Conservation Fund, which is administered by the Commissioner of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. And I believe there are representatives from
both departments here who are willing to address this bill and can speak much more eloquently on this than I can. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Representative Dill. Any questions for the good representative? Not seeing any. We would like call the department forward. I believe we have your testimony. Oh. And give us just a moment,
Yep.
please. It is a pleasure to welcome you here today, Commissioner Camuso.
Thank you.
I've not had the pleasure of meeting you, so this is a wonderful opportunity to do so.
Thank you.
You can begin with your testimony whenever you're ready.
Great. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Senator Talbot Ross, Representative Pluker, and members of the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. I am Judy Camuso, Commissioner of the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, speaking on behalf of the department in support of LD 2118. I will clarify that the title of the bill was a little, maybe not exactly how we would have phrased it, and we probably would have termed it transfer the natural areas program and reassign responsibilities. So although that probably statutorily is what's happening, is it's being eliminated from ACF, I didn't want anyone to think that the program or its functions are actually being eliminated. This bill repeals the laws governing the Natural Areas Program administered by ACF and reassigns the responsibilities under the program to the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. The bill updates relevant definitions in Maine Revised Statutes Title 12 and cross-references in Titles 36 and 38 to reflect these changes. The bill also reestablishes the Natural Areas Conservation Fund, which is administered by the Commissioner of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. MNAP was established in 1989 to inventory and conserve rare plants, animals, natural communities, and ecosystems, establish and maintain the list of state endangered and threatened plants, and monitor ecological reserves. The program is non-regulatory and focuses on providing technical assistance and conservation planning resources. For at least the past 20 years, MNAP staff and partners have discussed relocating the program to IFNW. This department bill would finally make that long-discussed transition a reality. As you know, the committee considered a similar bill, LD 402, during the first session. That bill died in non-concurrence due to concerns about the implications of transferring MNAP with respect to rulemaking authority. Over the past several months, we have discussed this issue extensively with the Attorney General's office, which confirmed that MNAP does not currently possess rulemaking authority. However, moving the program to IFNW would unintentionally expand that authority. Our intent is to transfer the functions of the MNAP program to IFNW without altering the existing rulemaking authority of either ACF or IFNW. Accordingly, this bill includes the same language on rulemaking that was adopted in the committee amendment to LD 402 last year. Otherwise, this bill is essentially identical to last year's bill, with only minor drafting differences by the revisor's office that do not substantively affect the legislation. We anticipate numerous benefits from transferring MNAP to IFNW, and this move is widely supported by the Maine's conservation community. As part of my testimony, I will provide a brief background on MNAP and summarize the benefits of relocating the program to IFNW.
MNAP's work has substantial overlap with IF&W's mission and programs. MNAP's mandate to monitor and inform the conservation of plants, natural communities, and ecosystems closely aligns with IF&W's responsibility to preserve, protect, and enhance the state's inland fisheries and wildlife resources, work that necessarily depends on the conservation of habitat. Simply put, IF&W cannot be successful in conserving fish and wildlife without also conserving the habitats on which those species depend. For this reason, IF&W and MNAP have long worked collaboratively toward these shared goals, but without the efficiencies that would result from being housed within the same agency. Maintaining MNAP and IF&W in separate agencies has resulted in multiple inefficiencies for the state of Maine and its customers, including duplication of data entry and database management, development, and maintenance, redundant staff efforts to respond to requests for maps, information, and technical assistance, administrative time required to oversee and maintain interagency agreements, numerous interagency meetings to coordinate programs, responses, and management guidance. Fragmented interactions from municipalities, landowners, consultants, land trusts, state agencies, and the public seeking information on closely related natural resources, such as rare wildlife and their habitats, resulting in potential confusion, added cost, and inefficiencies. Merging MNAP with IF&W would create significant staffing efficiencies and enhance the state's ability to plan for and respond to pressing conservation challenges, including more effective implementation of priority habitat conservation component of Maine's State Wildlife Action Plan, the SWAP, recognizing that habitat scale conservation is a cost-effective strategy for protecting most species of greatest conservation need. A more integrated approach to land management within the wildlife management areas that address long-term ecological diversity and resiliency. Improved management of terrestrial invasive plants, one of the most significant threats to at-risk wildlife and habitats as identified in the SWAP. Enhanced capacity to provide comprehensive technical assistance to private landowners to conserve at-risk wildlife, plants, and natural communities, while improving climate resilience. Improve customer service through a one-stop shop for municipalities, land trusts, consultants, state agencies, landowners, and the public. Greater consistency and integration in the review of and recommendations for siting renewable energy projects. Increased capacity to identify and acquire strategic conservation lands that advance SWAP and Maine Climate Action Plan goals. Improved tracking, integration, and development of SGCN species and habitat databases. And an increased ability to leverage federal funding by using MNAP's general fund resources as match. We believe that moving MNAP to IF&W is in the best interest of Maine's people and natural resources. This merger requires numerous statutory adjustments to portions of Title 12, 36, and 38, all of which are contained in the bill, as well as multiple layers of budget initiatives to move positions and financial accounts from ACF to IF&W. I would be happy to go through these specific changes in more detail during the work session. Finally, in reviewing this bill, we found one small drafting error. Section 41 adds IF&W to the consistency review comprehensive plan done by the Municipal Planning Assistance Program in Title 30A. IF&W and state agencies already receive requests to provide state comments in comprehensive plan consistency reviews. So adding IF&W to the consistency review process in Title 38 sets up a competing duplicative process that would be unique to IF&W and no other state agency. So I would recommend striking Section 41 from the bill. And that concludes my testimony. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner, for your testimony and for being here. Committee members, any questions? Representative Bunker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here. One of the points that brought up my eye on page 3, as you go down through your bullets, the very first one in reference to invasive plants. I was present at a workshop by a representative from Forestry that was talking about their efforts in that. Is there an interagency connection between your efforts in that area?
I believe this committee passed a bill directing us to work on an interagency program, kind of statewide for all 4 natural resource agencies and report back if I am correct. But to this date, we work very closely with natural areas on aquatic and terrestrial invasive issues, but I'm not aware of if we have an MOU or not, but I could get that for you for the work session.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Chair Pluker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All right, just on that one point around invasive species, are you worried around, I know page 15, 19, lines 19 through 20, the rulemaking authority that you're giving up? Would you feel like that would impact your ability to create rules around invasive plants?
So I don't believe we're giving up any rulemaking authority. I believe we'd just be transferring the rulemaking authority that MNAP has into IFNW, which there isn't any, and that is the opinion of the Attorney General. The department will retain our rulemaking authority outside of this section. So for example, tomorrow afternoon, we have a public hearing on significant wildlife habitat rule proposal. So we will retain, I don't believe the department is giving up any rulemaking authority. IFNW is not giving up any rulemaking authority at all. And as I think I explained to you all last session, the things we regulate as a department or that we advise on are really things that belong to the people of the state of Maine in a trust. So not things that belong to landowners. So all of the, any deer permits and the moose permits, all the things we do rulemaking on are things that belong to the state, not individual landowners. And so we are really uncomfortable taking on rulemaking that would impact private landowners.
I have a number of questions, if it's okay.
Please.
So MNAP does work on invasive plants or does not work on invasive plants?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, they do. Yes.
So would you be able to pass rules having to do with invasive plants if they were threatening other plants?
So that I do not believe we would be doing any rulemaking on plants.
Okay, so it would impact your ability to set rules on invasive plants.
Well, I mean, yes. So I think if somebody wanted to bring forward a change on how the state regulates invasive plants, then that would have to come back to the legislature, as it does now.
Okay, I have other questions, but
Thank you, Representative Dill.
Kind of a follow-up on that, though. If you would have rulemaking authority on invasive plants if they were impacting wildlife, correct?
Correct, yes. And so we do lots of work on invasive plants now. We have an entire, clean drain dry program. We have staff that are out monitoring water bodies for invasive species, and we do have the ability to enforce those rules. I don't believe this bill won't change any of that. It would just so that we, unless it was. So I think if, I'm just trying to think of a realistic example, but if there wasn't a zebra mussels found and that was found to be going to impact a state threatened or endangered species, then we could do rulemaking on that.
But I thought I heard you say, though, you would not have rulemaking authority over invasive plants that may be impacting.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
plants.
zebra mussels, not invasive plant. It's like most likely.
Yeah, but is that?
Same thing would apply. So if there was an invasive plant that was impacting a state threatened or endangered species, then we could do
Whether it
rulemaking
be
on that.
plant or animal.
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
Representative Pluker.
sorry, I got confused there. So if an invasive plant
confused too
is
now.
impacting an endangered, like say, I don't know what zebra mussels eat. I know
Yeah.
they're in the pond below my
I hope not.
my woodlot.
Yeah.
And so I know that I'm supposed to deal with my woodlot in a particular manner and so as to not impact the zebra mussels. But so if you were setting rulemaking authority on that plant ecosystem that would impact the zebra mussels, would that be impacted here?
So now I've confused myself. So, because zebra mussels are one of the most invasive non-native species, like
Oh.
that we're monitoring to keep out.
Sorry.
Right, so I'm now
Whatever the
confusing
protected
myself.
mussel is in
Yeah,
my pond.
so if you had, so the department has rulemaking authority to do, any sort of rulemaking on significant wildlife habitat. We do it on, vernal pools, all those things, would remain in place.
Even if it's within MNAP.
So we would just do that in a different chapter of Title 12. So we have authorities now. The department has broad authority to do rulemaking. We would not have the authority to do rulemaking on protection of an individual plant species, say. And we don't want that. We don't want to be able to rulemaking on provide protections for individual plants or plant communities unless for some reason that plant or plant community is impacting a state endangered or threatened species.
Okay, I think I'll if I could go a different tack, if that was okay.
Any other questions from community members first? Go ahead, Representative Fluker.
So I know at one point you said this is substantially the same as last year. What made you bring it back this
Right.
year?
Yeah. So I think there was a lot of confusion around what MNAP's current rulemaking authority is at ACF, and there had been different interpretations on what they could do. And so we met with, actually Deputy Commissioner met with the Assistant AG and the Natural Resource AG, Scott Boak and Lauren Parker, and got clarification that MNAP absolutely does not have rulemaking authority. So if somebody brought forward a rule for MNAP and said, we want you to regulate on, I don't know, white pine, they would kick it back and say, you don't have this authority, no go. If they brought that forward without making this clarification at IF&W, they would proceed. We could proceed with that. And so we had those conversations with the Attorney General's office, and then we went back and talked to our partners and sort of got everybody on the same page that this is what the AG's office is telling us. Moving it without this clarification would be substantially different than what it is now. So I think once we got everybody kind of on the same page and understanding MNAP's rulemaking authority as it is at ACF and what it would be at IF&W without the clarification, I think you'll see that everybody's sort of said, okay, we understand it and we're comfortable with the bill as presented.
Thank you. And is anybody here from the Attorney General's office to testify? No, I think for the work session, it'd be great to have folks from the Attorney General's office to explain how that breaks down.
Sure.
Would
you invite them? Sorry.
Excuse me.
Do you invite them or would you prefer we do or?
Someone will invite you.
Thank
you. When the conversations with the Attorney General's office, was the DACF Commissioner's office represented?
I don't know about that. We could find that out for you in a
Have
work
they been
session.
part of the conversation?
I have had many conversations with the commissioner at ACF. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
About the presentation of this new bill and exactly how it changes
Yes.
rulemaking and that kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, I'll be honest, there was concern that we're just bringing back this bill and, is it gonna, that's what Commissioner Beal and I talked about is how we're gonna have a different outcome, a more positive outcome for the bill. So.
Yeah, I just have it's a pretty technical one, a pretty easy one. This is a department bill, so conceivably you all wrote this bill?
Correct. Mhm.
And yet you want a correction in section 41 that you all
I think that was just
wrote?
I think it was just a challenge at the drafting.
Because I get that it feels a little duplicative, but
Yep.
I'm not sure I get you said it was competing. I don't understand that unique competing component that you put in your testimony.
Sure, I think it's just be that IF&W would have a double role that no other state agencies have.
So just duplicate,
Yep.
not competing. I didn't understand that part. Thank you. Anyone else that has a comment, a question? Yes, clarifying question for the commissioner.
Thank you. In your testimony, you mentioned redundant staff and reduced administrative time. Is it the intention to reduce the staffing when it comes to IF&W?
No, our goal would be to utilize all staff at ACF and to sort of be more efficient and allow us to do things faster or process things faster. And there's an enormous workload for both agencies. So this would just allow for efficiencies and give all the staff, both at IF&W and ACF, more time to do their jobs.
No necessarily reduction in budget then?
None.
Okay. I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Commissioner, if you could, for the work session, make sure we have the current rulemaking authority from MANP under ACF and what it would be for IF&W if this bill goes through. That clarity seems to be necessary for us to move forward.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from the committee? We thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much.
Those who are in the room today in support of LD 2119, please make your way to the podium. 2118, my apologies.
I'll go. Senator Talbot Ross, Representative Pluker, members of the committee. I'm Bill Ferdinand. I'm a lawyer from Brunswick. I'm here representing the Maine Forest Products Council today. The Forest Products Council members own over 8 million acres of land in the state of Maine, and they've always been very involved with the Maine Natural Areas Program, which, as you've heard, is a voluntary program that inventories and analyzes plant and plant community. And our members have actually used the program on a cooperative, voluntary basis as they do certifications for their land and they identify plant communities that need protection. And so it's a program that we support in its current form. So as it's being proposed to be transferred from the Department of Conservation to the Department of Inland Fish and Wildlife, we just want to maintain it in that form. So, and that's what's happening here, because the current program, as you've heard, does not have regulatory authority. If they move it over to IF&W that has regulatory authority in their general charge, there is a potential that that regulatory authority could now be used in different ways than the program was never used before. And that's what we were trying to avoid. So just maintain the status quo. It is a great program for cooperative actions with the landowners to identify and protect plant communities. And we just want to keep it that way. And that's what this bill does.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Committee members, any questions? Yes, Chair Pluker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Were you part of the conversations with the Attorney General's office or?
I was part of the group conversation. I didn't talk to the Attorney General's office myself.
Okay.
I got it through the department. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think when we're talking about plant communities and thinking of Maine Forest Products Council, we're thinking of late stage old growth is where my mind goes. And
Well,
I'm sure
there's a whole bunch of communities, but that's one of them.
yeah, okay.
yeah,
So
right.
for a work, I think for a work session, like talking about what kind of communities were MFPC is seen on their property or what are
Everything
working.
under the sun. Everything you see is on our property. We have half the state. So
Yeah,
it's-
any help you can give on
Yeah.
elaborating on that for the work session would be great.
okay.
I know
think
that-
like things that we've done with MNAP, things like that.
Sure, if
Yeah,
that would be, we're trying to get an idea of the scope of MNAP and what they do
Yeah.
in relationship to MFPC and how that is staying the same and making sure that there is
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
that making sure that's
Yeah,
clear.
I
and
can give you two
understanding.
examples right now. Certification for sustainable forestry includes inventory of species like that in plant communities, so we use it for that. And when they've identified a plant community that they're concerned about, they will come to us and through the departments, we'll say, this is an important plant community that we want to work with you on protecting.
perhaps an invasive species. I'm not aware of an invasive species elimination type program that you were talking about before, but it's more around protecting the rare communities, the rare plants, the rare thing. So it's the same thing with the endangered species. The department has responsibility for rare, threatened, endangered wildlife and fish species. So to the extent you have habitat issues that need to be protected for those species, yep, that gets brought in as well. So, and MNAP will be a part of that conversation as well. So it's more of this protection program in a proactive way, voluntary, working together on identified things that really need protection.
Yeah, so just giving us idea of that. And then if you did mention the forest certification, which I assume is more done with the Forest Service as opposed to IFNW.
It's done with neither, actually. It's a voluntary thing.
Program at all?
Yeah, no, they don't certify. It's a voluntary. There's the Forest Stewardship Council and the Sustainable Forestry Initiative are international groups that come in independently. It's not a government program. And they have criteria that you have to meet to get their stamp of approval. One of them is, identifying special communities. Yeah.
So MFS does not participate in that certification program?
No.
Okay. And that's it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions, clarifying questions? We're seeing none. Thank you for being here. Those speaking in favor of this bill, please make your way to the podium. You can begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Senator Talbot Ross, Representative Pluker, members of the ACF committee. My name is Chess Gundrum, and I am the Director of Advocacy for Maine Audubon, which is the state's oldest and largest wildlife conservation organization. And I'm here today to offer our support once again for the transfer of the Maine Natural Areas Program to the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. I will submit something online later on, but if you will, I can read just a couple lines from the testimony that we submitted last time around when this bill, a version of this bill was introduced previously. So together, as you've heard, MNAP and DI&W could more effectively and efficiently facilitate the conservation of Maine's biodiversity by providing comprehensive information and scientific expertise on at-risk species, natural ecosystems, wildlife habitats, ecological reserves, and invasive plants to landowners, developers, resource managers, towns, and other conservation partners through one coordinated program. Equipping decision makers with tools to make informed and responsible land management decisions. So moving this program to DI&W now is very timely after they recently established new habitat and wildlife diversity sections, which we're extremely thrilled about that, and are currently now at the end of their state wildlife action plan development process. So this is incredibly timely. It would bring together both those animal and the plant experts that we need to be in the same room, in the same building, to encourage a more integrated approach to working with landowners and others on how to best conserve our significant natural heritage alongside other management goals. So this move would reduce that duplicative work that's happening between these two agencies and create a more coordinated approach to database management, environmental review, species tracking, and leveraging of federal funds for habitat conservation. So we thank both Commissioner Beal and Commissioner Camuso for embracing efficiency with this transfer and for meeting with us and others throughout the summer and fall to explore how we adjust language that you see before you today. So thank you so much and appreciate your support of transferring this program to IFNW.
We appreciate you being here today. Any questions? Yes, Chair Pluker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You mentioned that it's really important because we're talking about habitat diversity. And do you feel that plants are part of the habitat diversity that's significant for wildlife? What's the role of MNAP in trying to secure that habitat diversity, which includes plants?
Thank you for the question, Representative Pluker. Absolutely. You can't conserve wildlife if you don't also conserve the habitat where those wildlife exist. And we appreciate, it's clear that DI&W's work has been focused on we'll put game species aside for a second, but rare, threatened, and endangered species. So those that need the most attention and the most support to make sure that their critical habitats are conserved. It's my understanding after working on this issue for the last year plus that the options, should they be of interest to lawmakers or a future administration to explore whether or not there should be changes or available around plant regulation or available to other agencies, if that's sort of helpful.
Or what other agencies?
Well, the biggest regulatory agency for at least natural resource agencies is the Department of Environmental Protection. They have several statutes that IFNW consults on that relate to really critical, important habitats that require protection and permits if you're going to disrupt their presence in Maine.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We're not seeing any. Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you
being
all.
here. Yeah. Segan, you can begin whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you. Senator Talbot Ross, Representative Pluker, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Amanda Egan, Executive Director of Maine Woodland Owners, speaking today in support of LD 2118. Maine Woodland Owners is a statewide nonprofit that advances stewardship of Maine's small woodland resources through the encouragement of sustainable forest management, support for the state's 86,000 small private woodland owners, and a land trust that conserves working forests. The Natural Areas Program provides valuable data that assists landowners in their forest management. This bill simply takes one program and moves it from one department to another, allowing for increased efficiency, streamlined data use, and better coordination of natural resource programs. This in turn will lead to better outcomes on the land. We'd like to thank the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry and the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Commissioners and staff for their work in managing this program and ensuring a seamless transition. We respectfully request that the committee vote ought to pass on LD 2118. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for being here, Director. Any questions for Director Egan? Yes, Chair Pluker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think you might be new to your position.
I am very new.
Do you know if anybody's from SWOM participated in the conversations over the summer or with the
Yes.
Attorney General's office?
Yes, and I had an opportunity when I first came in. I was briefed and I was able to meet with the groups. I do not know if anybody sat in on the exact conversations with the Attorney General's office.
Okay.
But as part of the broader collaborative conversations, we have been active.
And then looking at the larger issue of protecting plant communities, you represent small woodland owners.
Mhm.
Do you see there being a role for man in identifying protected plant communities and working with small woodland owners to protect those?
I think that our membership, the small woodland owners, what's most important to them is to have really helpful, informative programs. And that's what MNAP is in its current form. For most landowners, general public, they don't know all the differences between the state agencies and who does what and what program. And so right now, having to work with multiple points of contact can be confusing. So bring that all together so you're kind of going soup to nuts in terms of your technical assistance is really helpful. And having it be an informational program, technical assistance program is really valuable rather than having it be perceived as a regulatory burden.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anything else for the Director? Seeing none, we thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room for support of this bill? Not seeing any. I'll check with the committee clerk. Anyone online? You have one person in here? You could bring them, and this is in favor. Yep, bring them over. That would be great. Hi, are you Molly Doherty?
I am, and I'm currently the director of the Maine Natural Areas Program. I'm actually not here to testify today, but just to be available in case you had any clarifying questions, as I am out of state, but we'll be here for the work session. Look forward to speaking to you more.
Thank you so very much for making yourself available to this committee. Committee members, any questions? We are not seeing any, but we will take you up on your offer to
Great.
join us for the work session. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
Yes, your time. Anyone else in support of this bill? Seeing none, we will now turn our attention to anyone in opposition to LD 2118. I do not believe anyone is online. Anyone in opposition to LD 2118? Anyone neither for nor against in the room? Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Eliza Townsend. I'm the Maine Conservation Policy Director for the Appalachian Mountain Club. And as you have heard in the past, we own 130,000 acres of forest land in Piscataquis County. I have really struggled over this bill and spent a lot of time trying to understand pieces of it. So first of all, Maine Natural Areas Program is a wonderful and longstanding and effective program which has greatly helped industry. And it inventories plants. That's what it does. It has zero language in its founding statement, founding statute that allows it to regulate. It cannot regulate. That's what makes me a little bit anxious about the rulemaking language, which you have raised, Representative Pluker. I spent time yesterday, which helped me feel a little better, looking at the statutes. So if you read the statutes about the duties of the Commissioner of Agriculture and Conservation and Forestry, there's no language in there that says that they have the ability to regulate. Rulemaking, I suppose, is built into the statutes of each and every bureau and program, and it's not built into MNAP. If you read the statute that found inland fisheries and wildlife, it gives rulemaking authority to the commissioner. So I suppose that's the root of the fear. However, I feel worried anytime we try to cut off a public process. Rulemaking is a public process. It works just like this. People put forward ideas and people discuss them and negotiations happen and something results from it. So I don't think that we need to be afraid of public processes. And I'm particularly, I guess, sad would be the word about the idea that plants only have value if they are of value to rare, threatened, or endangered fish and wildlife. The reason it makes sense to marry MNAP with inland fisheries and wildlife is because ecosystems are just that. As we all learned in elementary school, fish and plants and humans need each other and we all contribute. So only caring about the ones that are specifically known to be associated with something endangered, threatened, or rare feels like a public statement that the other plants, to me, don't have value. And I think that's something we should think hard about. Surely there's a way that we can find the language that brings all parties together. But I just want to be cautious that forbidding rulemaking, that's a lot. Thanks. And I'll take questions.
Thank you, Ms. Townsend. Thank you for being here, sharing your thoughts. Any questions?
Thanks.
Anyone else neither for nor against? We're not seeing any. Committee members, are comfortable closing this public hearing? It is now closed. Thank you all for those of you who came and gave your time. Your testimony.
Information request. Okay.
Let's go around the horseshoe and see if there are information requests. Chair Pluker.
This is a long bill and complicated, and without seeing it in context, it's difficult to understand exactly. I think understand exactly what each of the changes it's impacting, and also being DACF, we don't work in IFNW statute as much. So I don't know if it's a request from IFNW to walk us through the bill during a work session to try to understand what each of the changes does and why it's there, or from the analyst, or if you could work together to walk us through that, that'd be great.
Thank you. Any other materials? Not seeing any. And I had made a request earlier from the department around the regulatory language. So hopefully we'll get what we need. We thank you for being here. We are going to move on. We'll take a few minutes to just transition. We're running slightly behind, but we will take a few minutes to transition into our afternoon work sessions. For the record, we will go in the order that's been printed with LD 1547, LD 2039, and then followed by LD 2040. We'll just take a minute to make that transition. Thank you. Okay, committee members, we are back. It's a great little break there. We are, as I said, we're going to go in order of the printed calendar for our work sessions this afternoon. Unless there is more time needed on LD 2040 to get an analyst here or potential amendment, we might do a little bit of we might switch some of our time later on this afternoon and jump to a language review and then come back, but we'll play it by ear. So we want to turn our attention to LD 1547. Our committee clerk analyst is here, and we're going to let her walk us through. It looks like there's an amendment. We're walking through
Correct.
the amendment.
Yep.
Please, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The original bill title is an act to fund Maine snowmobile trail programs. It was a sales tax bill. It was referred to the taxation committee. The taxation committee held a hearing, had a work session, and they re-referred it to us, this committee, very late last session back in May. So you had a work session, I guess, gosh, only a couple weeks ago. And there was another version of this amendment at that work session. It's my understanding that the departments of ACF and IFMW have been meeting, as well as the Maine Snowmobiles Association. And so that's what you have on the white sheet with the markup is sort of a very raw draft amendment. I haven't had a chance to sort of work on it, but it kind of gets the idea across. But before I continue, this was tabled a couple weeks ago, so we probably should take it off the table technically.
Chair Plugar.
I move that we take this off the table.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded or to move off the table. Just a show of hands. Great, that is unanimous. It has been moved.
Thank you. So I don't know if the committee would like to, or Senator Black would like to hear directly from the person who drafted this amendment to sort of just, go through it.
Mr. I like to always give an opportunity for the sponsor to say, give some context to the amendment if they so choose. So I would love to turn this over to Senator Black and hear what he wants to do.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could I have James Cody come up and go over this?
Absolutely. Mr. Cody?
Thank you.
And just introduce yourself before making any remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm James Cody here on behalf of the Maine Snowmobile Association. I'm happy to, if the committee would like me to, happy to elaborate on the amendment, albeit a rough amendment, but I think it, as was stated, hopefully it will get the point across in terms of our objectives. We've been taking into consideration much of the discussion that you all had a couple of weeks ago about this bill in the last work session, and have been talking to both the Department of Agriculture as well as Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, and decided that there are some things that we can do here to simplify, one, the original proposal that was put in front of you, and two, accommodate some of the needs and concerns of the agencies put forward. So in this bill on the first page, I will note, I just noticed this afternoon, but just proposing a title change. I think the old title probably doesn't reflect where we're heading with this anymore. So proposing the title change. And then the next sections, I think many of you probably still have a sheet like this in your folders, maybe. Well, I've got more copies if you need it. I can pull those out. What this, sure. And I have more copies if folks would like them. You have more copies, so you got it. This is just notes for me.
Oh, okay. It looks like this.
You got it. Okay, so the next section regarding fees is our proposal, Maine Snowmobile Association proposal, to create a two-tiered registration process for snowmobiles. That's the early season at the same rate that folks pay today, and then an in-season or late registration proposal that has increased registration amounts. And what this does is basically creates, based on recent historic data, would create additional revenue that could be then passed on to the Snowmobile Trails Program at the Department of Agriculture that can help offset a $3 million gap. I'll kind of skip through, I'll do some general statements, then happy to answer questions. So two-tiered system. And then we have proposed in this language, as you saw during the last work session, we were proposing a $5 regularly scheduled increase every 2 years. We've taken that out. We don't need that. We can have that discussion another time. And in lieu of that, there is the first section in yellow highlight says review of snowmobile registration fees and trail maintenance needs. That's the same language as is in the ATV statutes in Title 12, which allows both DACF and DIFW to talk with each other and bring forward recommendations to the legislature if they see a need to make any registration fee changes. So very consistent. It doesn't direct anything, but allows them to have a conversation and report back to you. And then the last proposal is that obviously as IF&W develops this two-tiered registration system, there's going to be a cost from OIT for that system. So we're just suggesting here that the increased revenue that comes from the late registrations could pay for that OIT cost. That's a lot, probably a little confusing, so I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cody. I do have a question, but we'll go to the analyst.
Just one comment on the very last paragraph that's highlighted yellow, and I didn't get a chance to talk with James, but that sort of language is not something, I did consult with OPR. It's not something that we would put in statute or even unallocated language because you can't earmark general fund revenue for later appropriations. So I don't know, that's kind of the feedback that I got from my fiscal colleagues.
Thank you for that clarification, because I had a question related to the calculation of you said the increase in, it may be moot, but at any rate, the $5 increase would go to not only filling the $3 million gap, but it would also go to pay for OIT.
So in this draft, we're proposing to remove that $5 regularly scheduled increase in the future. And instead, the only increase that anybody would see based on this would be after July of 2027. If you register your snowmobile in the late portion or in-season portion of the year after December 6th, on or after December 16th, then you would pay slightly more than you would prior to December 15th. Anything paid after that date, that increased revenue would then be channeled to the Snowmobile Trail and Capital Equipment Program at ACF.
And that fills.
It doesn't fill the gap, but it makes a significant gain towards, the gap is about $3 million. This is roughly, and folks behind me may nod their heads or shake their heads, but I think it's right around $1.4 million that this would help close that gap.
So just to be clear, the original bill sought to close the gap. And now the amendment will partially close the gap.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct. And
the thinking on that was?
Because the other portion, which I omitted to relay to you, but the additional component that would have really helped close that gap is a $1 million general fund request.
Yeah, I see.
And understanding where we are sort of in this landscape at this very moment, we thought we would rather go on something that is what we perceive is highly supported by a pretty diverse group of stakeholders than to challenge that in front of others.
I appreciate that answer. I was trying to do the math and something didn't add up. So, yeah, thank you. It did not add up. Representative Garrett, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here. So when it's, I guess I'm confused just a little bit. The non-residents is going up. It says proposed 94 on this page.
Yep.
So
So you can see on the left-hand side of the column where it says July 1 through December 15th.
yeah, so
So residents stay the same.
Yeah.
As long as you register during that time period, you pay the same as you do today. For non-residents,
it's going to $94. That's what you want.
from 74 to 94
Okay.
for a 3-day.
Yeah.
From 99 to 119 for a 10-day, and from 99 to 150 for a seasonal.
Okay.
And my understanding is that those numbers still leave us being very competitive in
In
terms
other
of
states.
other states.
All right, thank you.
Committee members, any questions for Mr. Cody?
I also might add, I really appreciate the fact that the agencies and Karen have spent some time with this, and we are more than happy to help flush out language if the committee is interested in it. We'd love to work through the details and make sure we get that right.
And that would be important, I think, yes. Senator Black, do you have anything you would like to add at all for our consideration?
The only thing is, we know that the trail fund, and capital expenditures for the clubs are underfunded. There's no question about it. And this would not increase the cost to our residents if they pay on time ahead of the season. Would be no increase to the residents. And this is almost a typical season where, in December, November, December, and January, we had very little snow, and people say, well, I was going to register it for, Christmas vacation, but we didn't have any snow. I guess I won't register it this year. But now we have snow. This will, they'll register them, the late, snowmobilers will register. They've got a couple, month, maybe a month and a half to go, and it will go back on the fund. It will help the fund, it'll be increased. So I think the snowmobile clubs are in favor of it, so.
I should probably maybe also just note that the Snowmobile Association did have another board of directors meeting over the weekend, and they had an e-board, executive board meeting last week, and both entities inside of MSA voted again to support this proposal.
Thank you. Yes, I do. Any other components of this that we need to draw attention to, except for pointing out the language?
Yeah,
Quagmire.
yeah, that last paragraph, I think, could kind of be addressed through the fiscal note process anyway. So, I don't really even think it's necessary. And then I think, James did a obviously great job of describing the substance. There is a lot of repetitive language in the amendment, and I think there's a way to maybe draft this more concisely, but that's just kind of technical stuff. So I could, if the committee wants to move forward with this, I can work on behalf of the committee with whomever you'd like me to work with on getting this up to drafting standards.
I thank you very much, Mr. Nadeau. I see Senator Black shaking his head. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, whatever would be best for the bill, and if you can approve it, I think we'd be more than happy to have you do that, Karen.
Substantially, the bill is, the amendment is before us, and I believe that it's enough for us to be able to move forward today. Committee members agree? Ready? Anyone want to?
I just have one question.
Yes, please, Chair Pluker.
Is DACF in favor of this, and have any other executive branch bodies been consulted in the drafting?
Senator Black? Would you? I'm sorry, sir. You have to be called to the microphone in order to answer. Senator Black, would you like to?
Yes, will the department come up? Yep.
Thank you. And if you could introduce yourself to the committee, that'd be great.
Thank you. Joe Higgins. I am the supervisor for the State of Maine Snowmobile Program with ACF.
And Chair Pluker had a question?
Yeah, where did you participate in the drafting of this and are you in favor of it?
Yes, we were part of it and we are in favor.
Do you know if MRS has been consulted? I think they would be the body that would receive the funds or help collect the funds, or does that come? IFNW was collects the funds.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry, I was talking to people behind you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, we have consulted with IFNW as well, who are in favor as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Higgins. Any other questions for the department? Thank you. Appreciate that clarity. Representative, one moment. Senator Black?
I don't know. I don't know if you want IFW to come up and confirm anything.
Chair Pluker?
I saw them nod, so
Yeah.
that's enough for me unless we want them on mic.
It may be good to have him on mic because the public may not have seen the nod, and then we'll go to Representative Cooper, I believe. Cooper? Representative Bunker, okay.
Hi, my name's Angie, Director of Licensing and Registration from Fish and Wildlife. Angie Dion, sorry.
Chair Pluker?
I think it's is IFNW in favor of these proposed changes?
Yes, we are in favor. We're just concerned with, of course, the funding for the one-time fee to get this into the MOSA system. Speaking to my IT team, the system is not currently set up to have any tiered pricing, so this would be a significant lift. So we would have to look into contracting somebody specifically for this project because currently their priorities and their workload is not something that we would not be able to get this done ahead of 2027 without that contract.
Would you see it needing a fiscal note?
Yes. Yes. Without knowing the exact specs of that project, the estimate's between $58,000 and $76,000 for that project.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For committee or anybody in the audience, remind me of the last time we had a significant change that helped improve these trail funds. It's been some time, is my understanding.
So anyone in the room who can answer that factually? Yes.
I'm hearing it's around 2020, 19 to 20 season.
Is that any other questions, Representative on? Okay, sure. Representative Garrett.
Thank you. I just have a question.
Sure.
When somebody doesn't register their snowmobile and they get caught, where does that, hold on, don't get ahead of me. Yeah, I'm asking for a friend. Where does that money go? The fine? Where does the fine
You
go?
are on the microphone.
I'm just curious as where does that? So obviously there's a fine.
Yes.
And where
That's
does that
something-
money go to?
Warden service, yes. That money will be collected for the warden service and retained by the warden service, yes. Yep. You're welcome.
Anything else you'd like to admit there? Representative? We're just streaming live, so go ahead.
Who's your local one?
Representative Frost.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious how you came to that figure. That seems really high to me.
Yes. Great question. Thank you. So because we don't have the exact specs, this is just an estimate based on a current project we have going on, based on those numbers and based on the timeline that my IT team suspects this will take. So a current project we have going on for 6 months is around, I think, 114. So we break that in half, it's around 76, 77.
Any further questions? Thank you very much for all your
Thank
help.
you.
Yeah.
So, Ms. Ditto, we would have to, absent the fiscal note for the motion, we'd have to make sure that that was included. Is that correct?
Yeah, so you could vote on the well, I mean, to even get the fiscal note, there would need to be a committee report. And then, so it'd be ought to pass as amended if you go with this, and then I would get that
Pending.
into processing, and then bring the language back for your review as always. And then once I receive a fiscal note for that amendment, I would bring that to the committee as always.
Committee members, are you ready to make a move or a motion on this bill? LD 1547, entertain?
Want me to do it?
I had a question.
Oh, no. Okay, I'm sorry.
We can ask questions after motions or.
I make a motion, we accept this as amended.
Ought to pass as
Ought to
amended.
pass as amended.
It's been moved. Need a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion, Chair Pluker?
Senator Black, are you worried about that fiscal note?
Do you need to ask?
But we should move forward with as drafted, knowing that there will be a fiscal note generated.
I think we want to move forward. Can I have?
Would you like a 2-minute corner caucus?
No.
Committee members, let's just take about a minute and a half. Let's allow Senator Black to confirm. Thank you for that brief pause. I think we're ready to go ahead and move forward with the vote. Representative Pluker, did you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
That was, the last one was quite,
It's a good one.
it's a good one, yeah. Our committee clerk is going to take the roll call vote.
In regards to LD 1547, the motion is ought to pass as amended. Representative Cooper.
Yes.
Representative Cooper, yes. Representative Cray.
Yay.
Representative Cray, yay. Representative Bunker.
Yay.
Representative Bunker, yay. Representative Jackson.
Yay.
Representative Jackson, yay. Senator Ingerson, absent. Senator Black.
Yay.
Senator Black, yay. Senator Talbot Ross.
Yes.
Senator Talbot Ross, yes. Representative Pluker.
Yes.
Representative Pluker, yes. Representative Jarrett.
Yes.
Representative Jarrett, yes. Representative Dill.
Yes.
Representative Dill, yes. Representative Hepler.
Yes.
Representative Hepler, yes. Representative Frost.
Yes.
Representative Frost, yes. With all members present voting unanimous, ought to pass as amended.
Thank you. That's 11 yes and 1 absent. Vote of the committee. We want to thank you all. Thank you, Senator Black. We are going to move on. We're going to move on to the work session on LD 2039, which is a resolve regarding legislative review of portions of Chapter 1, fee schedule, and major substantive rule of the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, Forestry, Maine Land Use Planning Commission, and it is an emergency bill. Ms. Nato?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the only thing I have is a handout about major substantive rules and the process for that. Voting these is a little bit awkward because a vote of ought not to pass and ought to pass actually have the same end effect. So it's a little counterintuitive, but essentially a vote of ought to pass if you want the resolve to move forward. It's authorizing the agency to finally adopt the rules. Ought not to pass would mean the legislature failed to act, so the agency could go ahead and finally adopt the rules. So if you don't want them to finally adopt the rules, you would vote ought to pass as amended, and the amendment would just be adding the word is not authorized to adopt the rules. So that's kind of the only funny thing about major substantive rule resolves. I know some committee members had requested that you receive some of their annual reports that were due the 15th, and the public hearing for this bill was on the 7th. So I have since emailed you annual reports. I didn't provide copies, but one report is the annual report on funding, and the other one is their annual performance report. So I think you folks wanted an opportunity to look at those before we held this work session. I do know that LUPC does have a handout for the work session. I did email it to you, but I think they have some hard copies for you, kind of a summation of permits and permit types and that sort of thing, and the fees for those. So that might be helpful as you consider this bill.
Thank you very much, Ms. Noto. I think it would be helpful to the committee to have that information. Ms. Maloney, I think we've got it, and Senator Black.
I don't know if you talked about it while I was out of the room, but I had a couple of questions about, whether it was going to prolong the permitting process, whether it was going to streamline the process, and whether it was going to make the process more expensive.
Is that a question, Senator Black, you'd like to ask our analyst based on the bill, or would you like to ask the department? Okay. The department, if you could come to the microphone and introduce yourself. So let us know if you've heard the question.
Yes, and I remember from the work session discussion too.
Thank you, Lou.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ben Godso. I'm the acting director of the Land Use Planning Commission. Nice to see you all again. I think the handout has made its way around, hopefully.
It has.
So we created this handout in response to Senator Black's question, and Representative Cooper had some questions, comments about processing times. So the first page, gotta find my copy, sorry. The first page includes excerpts from the annual report, and it's really about processing times. So you'll see there are a couple of tables there and a line graph, and then some takeaways at the bottom. The second and third pages are really pointed more towards Senator Black's question and provide a comparison between the existing fee system and the proposed fee system. And the last page, the third page, is the result of a study that we did looking at 380 permits from 2024 that provides a more direct comparison between the two fee systems. So I could walk a little bit more systematically through the handout if that'd be helpful.
I think that would either that or we would have to take a break because it's the first time I'm seeing this information.
Yes.
It
I'd be happy to.
It needs explanation. So if you're ready, please proceed.
Sure. We'll start with processing times. Unless you direct me to skip to the point, which is fine too.
No, if you could start with processing
be happy to
times.
do that.
No.
Building permit review requires building permits are less complex than other types of permits that the commission reviews and ultimately issues. But it does require reviewing a lot of different kinds of information, and figuring out the fee is one small component of that review. And so the figuring out the fee, for the staff and for the applicant does affect processing times, but it's not necessarily the most pertinent thing. Reducing the amount of time that it takes to figure out the fee isn't going to be isn't going to have a significant kind of dramatic immediate effect on processing time. So I just wanted to clarify that. It's a piece of the puzzle, essentially. The first table shows processing times in days on average and with a median number for building permits, development permits, and all other permits. The second table shows those same numbers over time, going back to 2020. And then finally, the line graphs that information over time. That's meant to provide some context. The takeaways at the bottom, building permit processing times increased from an average of 5.5 days and a median of 1 day to an average of 7.7 and 3 days in 2025. This is still within the LUPC's goal of issuing a BP within 2 weeks, and 74% of BPs were issued within 1 week in 2025. That's the red line on the graph. So that's just one of the 3 types of permits. Development permit processing times increased from an average of 21.2 days and a median of 20.5 days in 2024 to an average 46.8 days and a median of 40.5 days. And the LUPC's goal is to issue DPs within 60 days. That's the green line on the graph, and you'll notice that there was a significant increase in 2025. What's that? Yeah, that was the third bullet. But sure. So we have some ideas as to why. I think that development permits are much more complex, and that's true of the all other types of permits category as well. They can include, all other can include, for example, rezoning, subdivisions. Development permits are typically commercial development. Can be some forms of recreational development, but basically everything that's non-residential. Did you want to?
Do you want to finish your thought?
Sure. So I think that our thoughts about why this spike may have happened for development permits in particular, and also the kind of more complex permit reviews that the commission sees, have to do with a high staff turnover, essentially not having enough staff to cover, I forget how many millions of acres each one of us has, but the service area is 10.4 million acres, and the commission has 11 frontline permitting staff who cover that area. And the high turnover rate in particular has meant that for more complex permits that require more experience administering the commission's regulations, you have staff members who don't have the time, essentially, and context, background, all of the information that you get from spending time with the agency to be able to do that as efficiently as in the past.
Wow. I didn't mean to say it like that. Microphone. Boy, that's a lot. I think Senator Black has a comment. Or...
Thank you, Madam Chair. One question on that development. I mean, since COVID, there's been a tremendous influx in a unorganized territory from people, getting out there and more complicated development. Is that part of it? I mean, demand and location, and I mean, does that? I try to understand it,
Yeah, so the commission is also trying to understand this trend, and I think COVID was a unique situation. As a result, we saw an increase in building permits for sure, and you can see some of that in the numbers going back over time, and in development permits. That certainly put much more stress on our small staff as a result. That increased activity. It has since tapered off a little bit, but this year we actually had more overall permits issued than the year prior. So while it's tapered off a little bit, and it hasn't tapered off that much. I guess I should caveat that with it's still going up and down a little bit. I don't know if that helps. And then with development permits, I'm not sure what the trend is there. Again, these are not residential. These aren't people putting like additions on their camps or building new camps or anything like that. It's more commercial, recreational development. I'm not sure why that would be staggered behind this influx on the residential side. We're still trying to understand how those trends work together. But
Thank you. Any questions around the processing time before we move on? It does seem like, with the 60-day goal, you've never needed it.
Yeah, it's
Pretty,
on average, we're still within that goal. But some development permits do take longer than the goal, and we do the best that we can to keep those times down. But this is a significant increase, and we're concerned about that, and we're going to try to do better in 2026. Some ideas include, again, this small thing, simplifying the building permit application fee, but also focusing on training. We have a few highly experienced senior level staff who aren't necessarily writing the permits, but they are shifting their focus more towards creating training materials, onboarding new staff, and trying to get people up to speed as quickly and as efficiently as they can.
so it is all attributed to that point,
For
for the most part, the staffing, lack of training, high turnover.
I think it seems to us that that's one of the more relevant factors.
Thank you. Senator Black.
Thank you, ma'am. To say that you haven't gone over the 60 days you do have some permits that go way over that, but this is the average. And same thing with residential, the 40 days, you have some that go over that. Because,
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. The numbers you're looking at are average
yeah.
and median.
We can move on. Thank
Okay.
you.
So to flip to the second and third pages. The second page has, and there's a statistic there, at 80% of the permits that we issue are residential building permits. So this simplification would affect a large part of the business the agency does. And the changes would create a simpler flat fee system requiring less interpretation. That's our hope. That's our goal. The two tables on the page show the existing fee system today, and then the proposed fees is the second table. So to figure out the fee today, there's a base fee which is different depending on whether or not you're in a residential subdivision. Structure square footage rate. So depending on the square footage of or the footprint of structures that you're proposing, that might be different. Total disturbed area rate, and then an additional rate related to any wetland alterations. For the proposed fees, the table's quite a bit shorter. The base fee is based on square footage. So if the proposed building is less than 1,000 square feet, it would be $200. If it's more than 1,000 square feet, it would be $300. And then additions, accessory structures, and other types of residential development that aren't dwellings would be $100. And if you look on page 3, stop me if you have a question. I don't know if I'm going too fast. If you look on page 3, this is a study that the commission did during the rulemaking process, which I've alluded to a couple of times. We looked at 380 residential building permits from 2024. The results were variable, as you can imagine. We see lots of different kinds of projects. The commission found that the average fee for a typical building permit was comparable under the two different systems, and decided ultimately to move towards this flat fee system. The first table was what we actually collected in 2024, and the second table is what we think we would have collected should the new had the new system been in place. And so, for example, on the left column, you have only other, dwelling, and other, and only dwelling. That's a way to group types of permits, types of residential building permits. So only dwelling would be just that. Dwelling and other would be a dwelling plus, say, an oversized garage or some other residential activity. And only other would be that other residential activity. The total count was 380, average fee was 285, median fee was 242. Total fees collected were 104,589. In the bottom table, the bottom table again was proposed fees. Count was 380, average was 271, median fee was 300, and the total was 103,100, which is pretty similar overall to the existing system. be happy to answer any questions or.
That's just a tiny bit odd to me
Yeah,
to reconcile. The estimated versus existing doesn't really put us in too much better of a position. It's just a, yeah,
you mean
quite odd.
how similar they are
Yes.
to each other?
Yeah.
The commission had some of the same concerns that Senator Black expressed about raising rates for property owners. And so that's why we did the study. And we were also interested in what effect it would have on the total amount of fees collected. And we didn't want to end up with something that was significantly different.
Thank you very much for that very thorough presentation. Any questions at all, Mr. Goodson? We're not seeing any of that. Thank you
Okay.
very much for presenting this information.
Sure.
It's very helpful. So let's check in where we're at. Are there any questions at all or a need for any additional information? LD 2039. I am not seeing anything else that we should be considering, Ms. Nadu? Chair Pluker.
I move ought to pass.
It's been moved and yes, Representative Cooper.
Yes, I'll second that.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Representative Hepler, we are in the process of voting on LD 2039. Do you have any questions or comments that you want to make before we take the vote?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
course.
Also, for what's ought to pass and what's ought to pass is amended. So can you tell me what we've just done?
So you are authorizing LUPC to finally adopt their rules that are currently provisionally adopted. So you're authorizing them to go ahead with their proposed rule change. Yeah.
Representative Frost, were you asking her, Representative Hepler, were you asking for the specificity on how this kind of does the same thing depending on how you vote?
No, I was
Okay.
just, I just couldn't remember. I was here for most of this. It may not look like it, but I was.
We have a motion ought to pass. It's been moved and properly seconded. Once again, any further discussion or questions from the committee? We're not seeing any. We'll ask our committee clerk, Liv Maloney, to come and take the roll call vote.
Representative Cooper.
Yes.
Representative Cooper, yes. Representative Craig.
Yay.
Representative Craig, yay. Representative Bunker.
Yay.
Representative Bunker, yay. Representative Jackson.
Yay.
Representative Jackson, yay. Senator Ingerson absent. Senator Black.
Yay.
Senator Black, yay. Senator Talbot Ross.
Yes.
Senator Talbot Ross, yes. Representative Pluker.
Yes.
Representative Pluker, yes. Representative Jarrett.
Yes.
Representative Jarrett, yes. Representative Dill.
Yes.
Representative Dill, yes. Representative Hepler.
Yes.
Representative Hepler, yes. Representative Frost.
Yes.
Representative Frost, yes. With 11 members present, the vote is unanimous, ought to pass.
Thank you very much. Thank you, committee. Good work. I'm gonna check in. Thank you for being here. We're gonna end that work session on LD 2039. I'm gonna check in on LD 2040 with Chair Pluker.
I might need to go to labor soon, so if we could move through this, that would be great.
As long as our Mr. Nadeau is all set for us to move. We are now going to begin our work session on LD 2040, which is an act to survey food and security in Maine. It was presented by our own Chair Pluker. And we will open with a review by our analyst of this bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I did prepare a bill analysis, but it doesn't seem like it's applicable anymore, so I'm not going to hand it out. What Liv is handing out on the yellow sheet is a
sponsor's amendment, Representative Pluker's amendment. So I will, I guess, go to the original bill. The original bill directed the Commissioner of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry in partnership with outside agencies and other state agencies to institute a pilot project, an annual survey of food insecurity in the state. So at the public hearing, if you recall, Representative Pluker did present an amendment turning the act into a resolve. I'll leave it at that. So you should have a version of Representative Pluker's amendment to his bill that was presented at the public hearing. What has been handed out today is sort of further editing, massaging of the amendment language that he has been working with GoPIF and the Department of ACF, as well as other interested parties on the language. And I can go through the draft amendment, or you can.
I think since I'm getting called to labor right now,
Okay.
I just want to hit some high points and see if people have questions for me. The core of this is that we didn't want to put too much pressure on GoPIF or increase the workload for GoPIF or DACF to a degree to which they couldn't deal with it. We wanted to make sure that if we found external private funders, that money could come in and help fund this effort if necessary. And likely it would be necessary if something were to happen. And in the meantime, also not push things to happen so quickly that they couldn't, that we wouldn't have time to really put together any kind of idea or RFP for a contract if it needed to go out. So we pushed all that. So what we've ended up with is essentially there will be a study done of how the best way to create, monitor, model food insecurity in the state of Maine, taking some of these factors into account. And there will be a report back to this committee January 15th, 2027, for those of you who are lucky enough to be here. And at that point, you could take additional action to continue this kind of effort to evaluate, survey, and know where the hungriest people in Maine are, and perhaps even get some details as to why they are hungry, and try to help alleviate that by 2030. And even if I'm not here, I promise to keep working on the issue outside of these walls.
I just have one quick question. It keeps referencing an advisory committee, but it doesn't then, does it show where it just says with the input of the advisory committee, which if I was just reading this without knowing the work that's being done behind scenes, I would not know who you are talking about.
So yeah, I think it was in 2020, this committee created the advisory committee to end hunger by 2030. And so that is an existing committee board that works. There's two aspects to it. One of it is interagency inside the executive branch, and the other one is a private entity that it's not private. It's guided by Toby right here, but it's a group of many private organizations that work together to attempt to end hunger.
Thank you, Representative. I know you're on your way. I would just say that I do realize that work had taken place. I've been watching it from afar. But this is now a resolve, so perhaps it's not quite as necessary to name what the advisory committee is made up of. My concern stems from who sits on the advisory committee, and if all of the fields that you're trying to ascertain, if there's food security or food insecurity, if all of those fields are represented by individuals on the advisory committee, there was a means to an end here.
I see what you
Okay.
Yeah, and that's my concern.
So can
Yes,
I
please.
attempt to address that? So as Representative Pluker said, it is in current statute in Title VII, Section 2, subsection 6 is the strategic plan to end hunger. And then, it reads, the commissioner shall establish an advisory committee to guide the implementation of this plan. The advisory committee must be composed of members with expertise relevant to the strategic plan to end hunger in the state, including but not limited to expertise related to economic development, employment, housing, children's issues, healthcare, education, transportation, emergency food, and the social safety net, as well as expertise that derives from lived experience of poverty and food insecurity. At least 1/3 of the members, or 3 members, whichever is greater, of the advisory committee must be persons with lived experience of food insecurity or generational poverty.
I appreciate that review. It still does not, it says that this particular study is going to look at populations defined by, and then it gives the demographic categories, and all those demographic categories are not listed as representatives in the advisory committee. So that was my cause for concern. It remains that way. However, I do understand this is just a resolve. Representative Dill, you're up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is that a viable committee and does it meet?
Viable, as in it's.
Is it ongoing?
It's
Does it meet?
statutory,
Yeah.
yes, it's in statute, yeah.
But do we know if it meets? Is there, I mean, if we're telling that committee to, look at whatever the survey is, are we asking an empty committee to do this?
Well, the way the resolve reads is that the commissioner is the one that's charged with leading the study. And then the commissioner is directed to seek input from the advisory committee established in Title VII, as well as outside organizations and other state agencies as necessary.
Follow-up, Representative?
Yes. So then what we're hanging our hat on is as necessary. So it's basically up to the commissioner unless she needs to go to these other people as needed. Because the first one named there is the advisory committee. So if I was sitting here, I would say, oh, the commissioner, as she's working with this, needs to go to the advisory committee, and then as well as other groups as needed.
No, that's not how I read it. I read it that the commissioner is required to seek input from the advisory committee, outside organizations, and other state agencies as necessary. So, I guess it could be just outside organizations and state agencies and not necessarily the advisory committee, or, I think you could ask the department how they would interpret that, but they're seeking the input from those 3 entities, or those 3 descriptions as she sees necessary.
Representative Dill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'm not trying to argue here, but I think we're saying as necessary. To me, that kind of,
We could strike it if you're not comfortable with it.
Well, then that would mean that she would have to go to those groups, at least the advisory committee. And then it says, and others as needed, as well as other groups. So my question still becomes, if that advisory committee is not made up already and is meeting or is viable, why are we putting that in here?
We can call Representative Bill, we can call the department up, because I am in the same ballpark that you are, and a little bit of concern. Mine stems from, we already have a committee that's looking at ending hunger by 2030. Why wouldn't this be part of their duties? How would they carry out a strategic plan if they don't know who's food insecure? So it doesn't make much sense to me. Representative Hepler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm looking at somebody over, and I don't know if you're from the department or from the committee, but if she has information to add, I'd like to.
Thank you, Representative. I was going to call her up, but I did want Representative Dill to finish his thought, because I just don't understand why we were creating more studies and more pilots when we already have a functioning group of people who are supposed to be looking at this all the time. That's already funded. Ms. Naidu?
So as we all have heard, the United States Department, so I think if you look at the resolve in section 1, it sort of explains why this is necessary. And I think Representative Pluker's original intent was to actually do a food insecurity survey. But now it's being described as a study of opportunities to assess and evaluate food insecurity. It's kind of softening that a little bit, but the main reason is because of the One Big Beautiful Bill and cuts to SNAP. And then additionally, USDA announced that they were canceling the household food security report. And this annual study was a singular source of data on state of food insecurity in the United States. And we heard from those who testified in favor of this bill. It formed the basis for policy interventions to combat hunger. So I think that's the purpose of this resolve, is to sort of, in Maine anyway, fill that gap to do that assessment of food insecurity. But obviously it makes sense to, I guess, consult with the advisory committee on the strategic plan to end hunger in Maine by 2030.
Thank you so very much. I do think now that you know, that this conversation is taking place, that the analysis that you did on the bill would
Could have
would
been
have been
helpful.
very
Why don't I
helpful,
hand
I
that
think.
out now?
Yeah, it may have saved us a tiny bit of discussion here.
Yeah.
But we would like to call up a representative of the department and please, and I will just point out again, maybe you could clarify what this advisory committee actually, well, not what the advisory committee does, but you all have a strategic plan that ends hunger in 2030. How can you possibly do that if you are not already conducting this kind of analysis to inform the pathway forward? I'm confused about putting a study into a functioning group whose task is to understand food insecurity. So I'm having a little trouble with that. I don't know if other committee members are as well, but if you could clarify that, it'd be helpful.
Yeah, understood. And I'll just clarify, I'm here from the Governor's Office of Policy Innovation and the Future. My name's Toby Solomnozier.
My apologies. We could not hear your full name.
Yeah.
If you want to speak into the mic a little bit. Thank you.
How's this?
That's
Is that
perfect.
better? Okay.
And your name again?
Toby Solomnozier. So I provide the staffing to help support the Ending Hunger Advisory Committee and can confirm that we meet regularly. We meet every other month right now, and we have a fully staffed advisory committee of 26 members right now. And to your point, Senator Talbot Ross, this is absolutely a part of that work. So this is not intended to set up a new structure, but really to address the point that we have been using this USDA food insecurity measure as a way of understanding trends, and that went away. The last report came out in December. So this is really to look at, in the absence of that number, to really understand what information that was giving us, and is there a way to bring together other existing data sources in the state to have a better understanding of trends, especially in the wake of certain cuts to programs like SNAP.
I appreciate that so much. I will still admit that if your task at hand, if the goal for these 26 members plus all the staff and funds that go into this is to end hunger by 2030, I get the absence of this national report. What I'm not connecting with is why you would not then assume this without the legislature having to tell you to go ahead and study this. That's what I'm not getting.
I think this is absolutely part of the work. We have a data dashboard that has been created already that has a number of different sources of food insecurity rates. So it has been a part of the work. I think just in conversations with Representative Pluker, and we're working with some other folks like Full Plates, Full Potential, there was a desire to indicate a commitment to really looking at this and taking seriously what the gap without that USDA measure will pose.
My last question, committee members, if I could, or someone has, would a letter from the committee encouraging you to take this up go just as far?
I think that would also work.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion from the committee? It feels a little hard to have this discussion without the sponsor in the room. So I want to pause for just a moment to see where Representative Pluker is in between these two committees, because it would be very difficult to proceed without Representative Pluker in the room. If committee members agree? Yep. I'm not sure. What we could do is table it. I think Representative had we could table it, and then depending on when he comes back, let's re-engage on this issue when the sponsor is here. Does that feel like a fair way to proceed, committee? Okay. Miss Naidu?
I was just gonna add a tabling rather than a recess
Mhm.
would be great because we do have a couple of language reviews. So we could do those and then come back to this.
Thank you so very much. Representative Garrett?
I make a motion, we table this.
Yep, it's been moved and properly second to table. Show of hands. All set. Thank you. Thank you very much for being here. I would say I would benefit if it's possible to get like soon a list of the 26 members that currently are on the advisory committee. Thank you. Hey, we are doing some great work here today. We're gonna move right along to language review. We have two LDs, LD 1661 and LD 2026. We'll see how far we can get in both of those. And Ms. Naidu, you can proceed whenever you are ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Liv is handing out a pink sheet. This is the committee amendment to LD 1661, an act to establish a comprehensive and interagency approach to invasive species management. This is a carryover. We've had several work sessions. Let's see, last time we met about a week and a half ago, there was a language review. And what you have before you is just sort of slightly modified version of the committee amendment. And what the change from the last time you saw this is that both the departments of IF&W and Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry will conduct this review and assessment of the state's invasive species management efforts. In a previous iteration of this amendment, it was just the Department of IF&W, and the committee wanted to have ACF as a co-lead on this effort. So that's basically it. I did run it by both IF&W and ACF, and they're fine with the language. I know it was, I think, Senator Talbot Ross who wanted to give them a chance to look at the committee language and have an opportunity to review it. And it is, there's a phrase, within existing budgeted resources for both departments. So that's the gist of the amended amendment.
I thank you for that. Questions from the committee? I think this is exactly what we had asked for.
Okay.
And so I think that the procedure is, after reviewing the rule corresponding, the committee may vote to recommend that the agency be authorized to finally adopt.
Nope, this
No?
is a language review. This is turning an act into a resolve,
So no legal,
yeah,
Okay.
that's what that
make
sheet's
sure
for
we're covering
2039.
all of our
Yep,
legal bases.
yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
No other questions or comments? Representative Bunker.
Just a quick one, Madam Chair. As a resolve, does that enable any one of the referred to legislative committees to bring forth legislation? Can resolve do that, or does it have to be some other act?
Ms. Hu can answer as well.
Kind of all the bills blurred together at some point for me, but I think at one point, oh, yes.
It does.
I think at one point, there was an idea to maybe kill this bill and just send a letter to the departments, but Representative Dill said, well, I want the committee that receives the report to have authority to submit legislation. And I said, you need a resolve to do that because a letter won't give the committees that authority. So the short answer is yes, they have that authority to submit legislation. And this, it's in section 2 of the amendment. So, the report goes to ACF, IF&W, Marine Resources, and ENR. So each of those committees will have authority to submit a bill based on the subject matter of the report. Did that answer your question, or did I miss it? Okay.
Yeah, section 2. Did I see a hand down at this end? Anyone want to make a, okay.
So we good on that?
Chair Pluker?
I'm a little late. Is there a fiscal note on this bill?
We don't know until the
Okay.
committee amendment goes off into Never Never Land to get it
Okay.
analyzed.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it did say within existing resources.
But I'm not going to make assumptions. So.
Yes.
So we can move on now to LD 2026. And we'll turn it over to Ms. Nato.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this one is, this has already been voted. This is the committee amendment to LD 2026, an act regarding distributions from the stipend fund for agricultural fair competitions and events. So this amends the law governing the distribution of the stipend fund. So it allows prizes paid for a competition or event judged up to 48 hours rather than 24 hours as proposed in the bill prior to the license fair date to be considered in calculating that distribution. And then it also says that that provision does not apply to livestock and poultry competitions or events, pulling competitions or events, nor educational agricultural talks, workshops, and demonstrations. So the committee voted to exempt paragraphs A, I, and J. I will say, however, that the department also suggested that you exempt paragraph K, which is educational agricultural talks, workshops, and demonstrations. Having said all that, you may want to just not act on this bill for a while, given that you just heard LD 2096, and maybe this could be folded into that bill, or depending on what happens with that bill, this may be a standalone. But maybe we should kind of talk about the two at the same time.
Thank you, Ms. Nato. That makes very good sense to me. I know the bill sponsors here. Representative Pluker, do you want to make a
Yeah.
comment?
Yes, I also think that we should hold on to this bill before it leaves committee so that we can make sure it works, it dovetails well with 2096. And it could be that it's best to put it all into one bill and we kill one of these.
Thank you, Representative Pluker. Representative Cooper.
All right, I agree with Karen's comment on including section K. Because that is one of those areas that does not fit into the intended categories for this bill for the time change. And I would have included it in my amendment, but I honestly missed it.
And just to be clear, that was a suggestion of the department, not my, but I did draft it that way, thinking that you probably would be amenable to it. But we can, let's say you move forward with this amendment as drafted, I probably would recommend you reconsider it, because that paragraph K exception wasn't part of the original motion, as Representative Cooper just said, but we can just figure that all out when we do 2096.
Yeah, we don't need to table it, but we can just wait on it, right?
Yeah, it's, yeah, there's no action. It's just language review. I did a committee amendment. You have a copy of it, and then that way, when we talk about 2096, when we work that, you'll have the latest for 2026.
Committee members, are you comfortable with that direction? Moving forward, Representative Cooper? Yeah, okay. That's what we'll do. We are going to I'd like to just take a 1 minute break here for just a moment. Yeah, I'm glad there wasn't on the
Normally we're-
microphone. boy.
Normally we're dragging him back in here.
Welcome back to Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. We are in the process of talking about LD 240, an act to survey food insecurity in Maine. And I will start out by saying I was quite skeptical of the need for a resolve to do what I believe the entity can already do, but I gathered more information and am now convinced that this resolve will give that work an additional tool in order for them to be successful in it. So I am going to ask the committee if they have any other questions now that the bill sponsor is here, or any comments they'd like to make on this bill. I'm not seeing any. So I now will entertain a motion unless the bill sponsor wanted to make any comments before we vote. Good. Motion? Representative Frost?
Accept the bill.
Oh, you have to make a,
Not to pass as amended.
no, you have to move something.
Okay.
It's okay.
Let's see. It's been a long day, sorry. I will make a motion to move LD 2040 ought to pass as amended. I mean, ought to pass. Nope. Ought to pass as amended.
Thank you.
It's been moved. Do I hear a second? It's been moved and properly seconded by Representative Cooper. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, we will take a roll call vote on this LD 2040.
With regards to LD 2040, the motion is ought to pass as amended. Representative Cooper.
Yes.
Representative Cooper, yes. Representative Cray.
Yay.
Representative Cray, yay. Representative Bunker.
Yay.
Representative Bunker, yay. Representative Jackson.
Yay.
Representative Jackson, yay. Senator Ingerson, absent. Senator Black, absent. Senator Talbot Ross.
Yes.
Senator Talbot Ross, yes. Representative Pluker.
Yes.
Representative Pluker, yes. Representative Jarrett.
Yes.
Representative Jarrett, yes. Representative Dill.
Yes.
Representative Dill, yes. Representative Hepler, absent. Representative Frost.
Yes.
Representative Frost, yes. With 9 members present, the vote is unanimous, ought to pass as amended.
Thank you, committee members. This will conclude our work for today. It's now 4:35. I'll just check in with committee members. Anything, any requests for anything? Comments at all for today? We'll be back here next Tuesday. I hope you all have a very, very good week. Stay dry, warm, safe. We want to thank our committee clerk, Liv Maloney, and our incomparable committee analyst, Karen Nadu, for their work today, and for all those who came before ACL.